if we have to edit it after the fact.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Another fucking YouTube problem that I'm going to blame
YouTube,
on them.
You fuckers. You ruined our microphones.
I believe you were saying something about Francis at the moment that...
So for the people that don't know, I do a character called Francis, what made me famous. That's how you discovered me, right?
This is true. And I believe, honestly, I think it was a post on Gawker back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Or it might have been Deadspin, something like that. But either way, I as a youngin', I played Magic the Gathering quite a bit. Super, super obsessed for...
So is the table flipped one?
The table flip. And I mean, it was just like, for me, as a person who at that moment believed that it was real, I thought it was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen. Like, I remember it being one of those like early viral things where I'm literally like emailing it to people like, yo, watch this. This dude is nuts. This is the funniest shit I ever seen.
So I think that's one of the things that really killed the character. Like, obviously I don't look as weird and as gross, but on top of that, like, people know it's a joke now. But there's still plenty of people who don't know. And even if you know it's a joke, shit, I know Breaking Bad isn't real. I watch Breaking Bad. So.
Exactly, yeah.
But I talked to my YouTube rep, and he's just like, do you think you could do Francis without the swearing and without the anger? I'm like, could you do Breaking Bad without the meth and without the violence? No, you can't. What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
That is the entire character. But that's YouTube now, because a robot can't tell the difference between satirical swearing and real swearing. They can't tell the difference between satirical fighting and real fighting, right?
It feels like they're getting a lot better at detecting the swearing as well, because I feel like now when I interview or when I post a podcast that has a particularly extreme amount of swearing with some rappers or whatever, that then it seems like they're getting those ones. Or if there's a little bit of weed smoking, it'll maybe stay monetized. But if it's bad, like if there's constant smoke in the camera, somehow that is triggering whatever like Bangladeshi employee that they have reviewing my stuff.
And in the first, now they say if you swear in the first third of a video, like that automatically gets demonetized now. Yeah,
or I've heard that the first like 30 to 90 seconds are like crazy important.
Yep.
Depressing world that we live in, where you never would have been able to predict 10 years ago that we would be now living in a world in which YouTube was so much more restrictive than like most TV stations or like anything else that you can imagine.
But the world is turning that way. We're becoming a puritanical nation all over again. We were founded by Puritans, and I guess we're going to stay that way. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the really upsetting thing I think about it is just the fact that this is the way forward. That like more and more censorship seems like it's going to be the norm. I don't know if you've like kept up with the Gab thing, but that's been pretty depressing.
I heard about that. I know that Sony has now started censoring games in the West. Have you heard about this? So, like a lot of those little weird Japanese games where you can touch girls and stuff. And if you want to censor that, I guess that doesn't bother me because I never played those games. But Devil May Cry 5 got censored in the West.
Right.
And it wasn't censored on the Xbox. It wasn't censored on PC. It was censored on the PlayStation. Like, why?
For us, right?
Like,
that's insane.
And so somebody at Sony said, you know, they want to stay with current trends, and also they don't want to get sued, right? They don't want to get sued for like accidentally exposing somebody's kid to like a titty or something.
See, I'm going to be honest with you. I am okay with that. I'm okay with the idea that a kid might accidentally see a boob. Like, I feel like that is a risk that I'm willing to take for free speech as a whole.
Right, so I can play a video game with a titty in it.
Right.
Yeah. No. Especially because they're rated, right? Like, they're rated immature, A for adults only. I mean, those games exist. We have a rating system for a reason. You can set your PlayStation, I'm sure, I don't know that this exists, but I'm sure at some point they set it so the PlayStation accounts can age verify and only download certain games. There's got to be parental controls on your PlayStation. There's got to be parental controls on your Xbox. If there's not, they should put them there. But I bet they're already there.
And do you think, though, that's an interesting thing to me? Do you think that the internet is too free in a sense? Like, do you support the fact that there's a lot of legislation that's been proposed, I believe in the UK primarily, where it's like it's going to be much harder to look at pornography if you're not actually a registered adult?
Like, it's absurd, right? I don't know. I grew up with my dad's magazines from underneath his couch, so I was looking at porn at an early age. And I probably didn't turn out that great, but I didn't turn out that fucked up either.
Right, but okay, think about it from the perspective of, I think that, it's worth re-examining some of the decisions that we've made as a society. Like when you look back at the early days of internet porn, it was like, anything went, and everyone had the attitude of, we can't control this. There's absolutely no way that we're going to be able to control this, so let's just not even try to control it. But then let's look at the reality now, is that it's incredibly easy for young kids to get their hands on really, really over-the-top, extreme porn. And I do think it's worth having the conversation, or the at least pondering, do we want to live in a world where everything is this open when one of the inevitable results is that you have little kids looking at pornography?
So number one, I don't have any kids myself, you know, so I can't speak as a parent, but I can say that I think parental control is where all of that should really begin and almost end, right? Like if you are not watching what your kid is watching, then you probably need to do a better job. No offense, right? I know there's people out there working 2 jobs. I know there's people out there who don't have barely enough time to spend with their kids. I understand that. Then don't buy them an iPad. Don't give them a phone. And if you can't control what your kid's watching, don't give them the devices. They're still going to find it, you know, even if you legislate it, even if you make it almost impossible to find, as long as they're still selling dirty magazines at a corner somewhere, they're still going to find it. They're going to shoplift it. That's what I did as a kid.
I wonder if we would see the printed porn world make a comeback if the ability to find porn on the internet becomes more and more difficult. But then at the same time, we all have that assumption that the kids will not give up until they see the boobs. They will find the boobs. They will find a way. They will get a VPN. They will hack their phone.
I would not have given up.
Exactly. Me neither. Biology is not going to be tamed.
No.
This is not happening.
And I'll be entirely honest with you. I saw nothing too crazy hardcore. I saw Hustler magazine and stuff growing up. I saw Penetration, and I remember reading Hustler magazine when it had like a section on like weird fetishes, and amongst the fetishes, and I don't agree that this is a fetish, what was in there was like somebody getting transgender surgery, right? And like they explained the process of how they changed the penis into a vagina, and like I read that didn't mess me up. I don't have a problem with that. I read another one about people who like to eat, like very not comparable to trans people here, but it's also in the same magazine. Hustler was comparing them, not me, but like people who would eat each other's shit and play with each other's crap, right?
That was the first thing I saw on the internet. I remember a friend of mine
That's one of the first things I saw.
He pulled me over and he showed me poopsex.com, and it was a girl eating a turd, and like all of a sudden my 12-year-old brain just became like, you know, because when you go from like prior to that, the only like porn I had maybe seen was just, you know, regular sex in a magazine.
My question is, if that's one of the first things you saw on the internet, are you into scat now? Did that affect you in like a way that you like want to eat people's poop or something?
No, but I mean, I definitely do think that I felt it affecting me as a young person. Like I felt the fact that I had just seen something that I was never going to be able to unsee. And it was really more of the fact that I saw it when I hadn't been prepared for it. Like I had not had like any sort of like life experience that would have set me up for that. I can imagine that if I had seen that at 16 instead of 12, that it would have been very different if I had already become much more familiar with like basic sexual stuff. But I mean, it just blew my mind to a million pieces. And when I think back to that, I still have a feeling that there is an extent to which I feel like maybe we have sort of failed kids in the sense that they're able to get their hands on this stuff so easily. But I also admit that there probably isn't a solution for it, no matter what we try to come up with.
Right. And I don't even know really how much harm it would do if your average 14-year-old came across Pornhub. I don't think it's the most damaging thing in the world, because I saw porn DVDs when I was a kid. I saw porn tapes as a kid. And sexually, I'm a really boring person. I'm about as vanilla as it comes. I want a girl to consensually do stuff to me while I consensually do stuff to her. Right. And none of it's weird. It's all penises and vaginas and just normal sex. That's it. It's the only thing that appeals to me.
There's an extent, I think, to which we assume that kids are going to be fucked up mentally by the things that happen in their world, you know, that maybe is not 100% true. And I know this is a strange comparison to make, but there's a rapper, Rico Reckless, who came in here one time, and he had his 8-year-old with him, and he's smoking blunts right in front of the kid. Like, it's just no big deal to him. It's nothing. And he does this all the time. And to me, it seems insane, because to my like, I don't have kids, but I was a 3 and a 5-year-old nephew that I have that live like 45 minutes away. See him all the time. I love them. I'm obsessed with them. My sister and her husband, they won't really let me. They don't really want anyone swearing around them. They don't like saying a word like kill or gun around them. You know.
Yeah, wild.
But then at the same time, like, I'm watching this friend of mine, and he's smoking blunts in front of his 8-year-old, and the kid seems fine. And I'm just thinking, like, maybe that effect is not as strong as I think it is. In my head, if you smoke a blunt in front of a little kid, that's like fucked up. But then watching him do it within an hour or two of doing this interview, I'm like, all right, you know, I guess it doesn't seem that crazy.
I had a friend who was a parent, right? And when I was over for a pool party, their kid fell down, and the kid didn't cry. The kid just fell down, and then the mom went over and swooped her up, and she's like, Euro, let's have some fun. That just changed the topic, right? And later on, I asked her about that. I was like, your kid is tough. And she goes, no. My kid, the first time she fell down, she cried, right? Because I panicked. I freaked out. And so that affected my kid, because she thinks something's wrong. But I read in a parenting book that I shouldn't freak out. I should act like it's perfectly normal to take a fall, because then it becomes perfectly normal.
Right.
And so what I'm getting at here is I wonder how much of it is our overreaction to what kids are seeing that fucks up a kid, right?
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, I had that experience one time. I see my nephew. He was running in the mall. He runs right into this trash can. Boom! Bangs his head on it super hard. And he falls down, and he wasn't crying. But I saw him like nervously look up at his mom as if to say, like, should I be crying? Like, because her reaction, the look in her eyes was like, are you okay? Like, it seemed like in that moment that he could have potentially had a concussion.
Right,
it's very
right.
easy to forget that little kids can like go through whatever and they just survive it.
Yeah, I don't know. The human experience is really weird, and I feel like we are too guarded, and I feel like we're too, I mean, don't get me wrong. When we talk about pure freedom of speech, there's people out there who really abuse that and do some really terrible shit. Less than 6 weeks ago, on the Capitol steps of my home state of Little Rock, we had white supremacists counter-protesting a thing on shouting 7 million more in reference to the Holocaust, man. I mean, like, there's people out there who abuse free speech. There's people out there who abuse their freedoms, but, like, isn't that the price of freedom? Like, now we can shout those fuckers down, right? Like, fuck those guys. Let's get up there and let's counter-protest the counter-protest. Let's put them,
But then on the contrary, now we have like today a shitload of different conservative voices, including Louis Farrakhan. For some reason, we're all banned from Instagram and Facebook. And I mean, nobody on the list of people that they banned is as extreme as the people that you're describing. They're marching and chanting about how they want more dead Jews. Milo Yiannopoulos, the worst thing he ever says, not as bad as that. And meanwhile, they're banned from all these social networking platforms. Can you justify that in your head?
No, like when Alex Jones got banned from like YouTube, I kind of said I got it, and I made a video saying I got it because he was like openly harassing like the parents of Sandy Hook and stuff, and like that's what they said they banned them for, and that's why they banned them. No one should be allowed to name and harass the parents of Sandy Hook. They're not public figures, man. They're living private lives. Leave them alone. If they become public figures, maybe. But even then, I hate that we rip public figures a new asshole and say they just deserve it because they're in the public eye. That sucks, right? But whatever. But once they really started banning every conservative voice and it became a movement, that's scary. That's really scary because I don't think conservatives are innately evil. Some choose to be evil, obviously, right? But I think there's a lot of good, because I come from Southwest Virginia.
I'm sure you grew up around a lot of that, right?
I grew up around a lot of my family and my friends back home voted for Trump. And they're not voting for Trump because of his immigration policies. They're not voting for Trump because he grabbed them by the pussy. They're voting for Trump because he said, we'll open the coal mines again. We'll give you guys jobs again. And they're going to vote for him a second time in the hopes that he'll be able to do it. And they truly believe the Democrats are not letting him go back to coal, because they don't really understand. And that's what Trump is telling them. They're not bad people. They're just conservatives. I don't think you're innately evil for being a conservative. I don't think you need your voice squelched just because you're conservative. I don't like Trump any more than anybody else. I'm not a Trump fan. I don't think he's a great person. I don't even think he's that good of a president. I don't, it's not my cup of tea.
Trump can definitely suck it. But at the same time, I definitely just don't agree with the idea that what any one of those people has said on social media earns them a lifetime ban. I think that right there is what's going to get these fucking social media companies get government intervention and step in.
Probably.
Because it is so overwhelmingly fucked up and unfair. It's like, I understand the idea of like, okay, if YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and everything if there was some sort of court where they were able to say like, okay, you get 2 years suspension from Twitter.
Right.
That to me is way more fair.
Right. Well, like we're at a point where the president of the United States is tweeting all the time. And, that's part of congressional record now. That's going into the Library of Congress. Every tweet he's ever tweeted. He's not allowed to delete tweets anymore. It would be illegal for him to delete a tweet because it's technically communication by the president. And we're at a point where Twitter is so important. And it's fascinating that people can get that taken away from them. And don't get me wrong, I advocate if you have Twitter at home, stop using it. It's bad. It's a bad experience, and I don't think you should have to put that on yourself.
Have you had to limit your usage a lot?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually recently just went on a huge banning spree because I got tired of like hearing the same asshole saying the same stuff. And I was like, I don't want to give him that little badge of honor of like, oh, I got blocked by the cook or whatever. But I'm just like sick of it. I'm just sick. What I don't understand about any of it, I don't understand why people use Twitter to tear other people down. Because you can use Twitter to build yourself up. Look at what I've done. I'm a morbidly obese, 45-year-old piece of crap. And I've built a business out of my home that's worth $1 million. If I can do that. I don't understand why you can't do that. If you got YouTube on your phone, if you got Twitter on your phone, you can build a business like I did. And instead, you spend your time tearing other people down. It doesn't make any sense. Don't waste that energy tearing me down. Use that energy to build yourself up, build your friends up.
Yeah.
And you have the tools at your disposal, and you use it for that stupid shit. I don't get it. I really don't.
Okay, but say you were unsuccessful. Say your YouTube channel didn't have 4.5 million subscribers. Say you weren't earning a living from YouTube. Do you think that it would be more likely that you would be on the angry, resentful side of the fence because
If I'm being entirely honest, I was there at one point when the internet was brand new, right? I would play this mud out of Texas A&M, but when the web was brand new, and I discovered forums and all this stuff. Yeah, I was angry, and I would post on the earliest days of 4chan, and I would go to Christian message boards because I was jealous of people who still had the religion, because I wanted to have that. I wanted that comfort. I missed the comfort of believing in God, and I would post like anti-Christian messages on these Christian forums, and I would post like pictures of Tub Girl. Don't Google that if you ain't seen it.
No, Google it. It's fire. Yeah, Tub Girl.
And I was an angry, hurt person. But even in my angriest and even in my hurt, I never tried to ruin a career. Even in my angriest, even my worst, I didn't try to destroy somebody's life. I didn't swat somebody. I don't understand that. That's the part
insane,
that I don't get. Like, because here's the thing. Like, I've got swatted 10 times in the last 2 years now.
Where the cops actually came into your home?
The cops come into my house and do they mostly do like suicide checks for me because, I've made videos talking about being suicidal, right?
Right.
And they'll always tell the cop, he's got a gun, so you need to be careful because he's got a gun. And that means the cop is going to show up with his gun drawn, ready to go, right? So I answer the door to a cop with a loaded gun. And I get it. It's no big loss if I get shot because I'm dead. I can't lose myself. I'm gone. I'm in hell or heaven or in probably the abyss, right? I don't lose anything. But that cop has to live the rest of his life as the guy who shot a YouTuber, right? And goes famous for it.
And we've seen this recently with that one kid who got sentenced to 20 years or some shit like that because he called in a swatting attack and the cop ended up killing the dude.
Exactly right. And I do believe
by the way.
I do believe some of the people that have called have been like genuinely concerned because I said something on stream or something like that, right? But most of the time, I think it's just these same shitheads over and over again. And so it's now finally gotten to the point where the cops just call me and they're like, "Hey, Boogie, are you feeling today okay today?" And I'm like, "I'm getting on a plane in an hour."
Right. I'm so thankful that I live in a place that has enough crime that they're not just going to automatically show up if someone were to call that in.
They show up with the ambulance.
Right.
They show up with 2 or 3 paramedics. They show up with a fire truck with 2 or 3 fire and 2 police units in Northwest Arkansas.
And it's such a huge waste of
resources.
resources.
It's a huge waste of resources, taxpayer money. They're not doing much in Northwest Arkansas because we're a really safe community, man. We got like 1.5 million people in Northwest Arkansas, but like somebody gets shot and it's news, right? Nobody gets shot, nobody gets hurt, nobody gets beat up. There's no crime. There's hardly any homeless people, and they're all being taken care of. The ones that are there, it's a great area.
You like living out in the middle of nowhere per se?
Well, yeah. Well, so when you think of Arkansas, whatever you think
Bill
of,
Clinton.
Like 2 cousins.
Only thing that comes to mind.
Okay. Well, you might think of like 2 cousins fucking each other while their dog licks their buttholes in the front yard of their like farm. That's happening somewhere in Arkansas, right? But the area I live in is in Northwest Arkansas, and it's like super progressive. So if somebody shops at Walmart, that money comes home to me, and we got all the money in the world in Northwest Arkansas. I bought my dream home for $250,000, and I've owned it for 4 years, and it's now worth $310,000. That's how fast the area is appreciating, and, and that Waltons spend their money there, and they build museums and amphitheaters and all kinds of cool shit. And like, I'm a fat guy, and I like food, and there's so many restaurants. Like, you can't. It's insane how many restaurants there are, and we have the high-end stuff. We got the 5-star stuff. So
is that a problem for you as a guy who's trying to get in shape consistently?
It is and it isn't, because when you eat at a 5-star restaurant, you eat very reasonable portions, and so I will tend to treat myself at nice restaurants because I'll get a reasonable amount of food. But if you go cheap and you eat at Chili's brings you like 3,000 calories worth of shit. I don't care because it's all cheap garbage, right? That's why you get it fat and full.
I cannot fuck with Chili's at this point in my life.
I'm still struggling with my eating disorder quite a bit, but to say Northwest Arkansas though, I moved there 25 years ago, and I believed when I moved there, I'd moved to the nicest place in the world. And now that I've been to LA and New York over and over and over again, and I've been to Orlando, and I've been to Tennessee, and I've been to Seattle and Portland, but I've been to Boulder, Colorado. I know I live in the nicest area.
Really?
It's like perfect for me because it's got the mountains and there's no tornadoes and the weather is amazing. We don't get any snow. We never get any winter. And there's all the money in the world. And I don't lock my doors. And I'm a YouTuber, for God's sakes, and I still don't feel the need to lock my doors, right?
Wow.
And it's just a beautiful area. And it's really diverse. And like I own 2 gaming stores. And so what's crazy about this, I told the story earlier today on the H3 podcast. We live 2 hours away from Harrison, Arkansas. Do you know who lives in Harrison, Arkansas?
David Duke or something?
No, the Grand Wizard, the Ku Klux Klan.
Okay.
I don't know what his actual name is, right? But he preaches there every Sunday his hatred and bigoted shit.
Wow.
So my trans friend wanted to found a gaming store in Northwest Arkansas, and we called it Gear Gaming. And originally, when they founded the place, they couldn't afford it, so I bought a ton of Magic cards off of them so they could afford to get the bathrooms done and stuff. And then and we built that store and registered as an LGBTQ plus safe zone. And if you roll your eyes when you hear safe zone,
Right.
we're a safe zone for everybody. It's not just LGBTQ. We're a gaming store. You're going to come in, you're going to play games, you're going to have fun. But if you are a LGBTQ person and you're struggling, you're getting harassed, somebody's fucking with you outside of the store, we have an advocate there all the time, 24 hours a day. If you need somebody to talk to about problems, they'll talk to you. And we'll talk to you about straight white problems too, don't get me wrong. But we were registered as an LGBTQ plus safe zone. We're going to call Olivia, and Olivia's going to talk to you and help you out, right?
Wow.
And so they came to me and said, we want to open a second store. And we're going to open this one an hour and a half away from Harrison. And so I wrote a check for $15,000 and we opened another store. And if I have my way, we're going to open one an hour away from Harrison. And then I'll build one in downtown fucking Harrison until they burn it down. And when they do, I'll rebuild it. Because fuck those fucking people.
Do you think that would really happen, that they would burn it down? They're that opposed?
They got mad at us once, and they've said stuff about us once, and they like talked about protesting, and they never protest. That's the only thing that's ever happened.
Right.
So I don't know and that was when like we built the rock. I don't think it's going to happen. So for the most part, here's something I've discovered, and this is one of the reasons I get so mad about how we fight politically these days.
Right.
For the most part, when you leave bigots alone, they tend to just sit in their shitty little town of Harrison and rot till they die.
Right.
And they don't really like affect shit. But the more we poke that hornet's nest, the more they show up in Little Rock and chant awful shit. And so I have always been of the mind of let the bigots be bigots, and when they harm somebody, you kill them, right? If you hurt a person of color, you hurt an LGBTQ member, you kill them. Like that's what you do.
Or call the cops.
Right? Or just go ahead and kill them. I'm okay.
You're gonna do that yourself?
No,
That'd be a good vlog.
I'm a wimp, but I'm saying like once you start actually hurting people, then you have to be hurt. That's how it rolls, right? But if you're not hurting people, you're just sitting there being a bigot in your shitty little town in shitty little Arkansas, and you preach shitty little hate to a bunch of shitty little people. Let them be shitty.
Right.
You know?
So you have like a consistent base of people. So wait, the LGBT support center, that's its own business, but is it a nonprofit?
No, it's definitely for profit, and that's the thing. Like, it's a gaming store, so when we say for profit, it means we earn nothing. Like we break even,
right?
But the intention is to make money. So a lot of people will say, "Well, you're not really doing anything good. You're just trying to make money." If you want to make money, you don't invest in a gaming store.
Right, and when you say gaming, you mean like primarily like
Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, board games, Warhammer, all that stuff, right?
And what's that community like in your area?
In our area, like when I go to Texas and play, it's all like weird looking straight like white men like me, right?
Right.
But when you come to Northwest Arkansas, we have a really young and diverse crowd. So we have a lot more women than you would expect, and we have a lot more people in the LGBT community or LGBT community. And we have a really cool, diverse crowd. It's really surprising.
How'd you get into Magic? Where did that come from? Because I was hugely into it as like.
Why did you quit? That's my question.
Right, I know. What, puberty probably was like the main thing. I started riding BMX bikes and trying to fuck girls, and then all of a sudden Magic just didn't seem like it fit in there.
That's something I always tell Wizards of the Coast, like when they're trying to target like women as their demographic, or when they're trying to target like non-disenfranchised white men or whatever. I'm like, if I could fuck models, right, I would not be playing Magic. But that's why I spend my Fridays playing Magic, because I can't fuck models, right? I don't own a yacht. If I was a good-looking girl, I'm not going to spend my Friday night at a magic shop. I'm going to spend my Friday night with some sugar daddy taking me out to awesome places, right? Or like a good, handsome man who becomes my husband one day and have him take me out to great experiences. I'm not going to sit in a Friday night magic shop with a bunch of sweaty nerds,
Do
right?
you think the Wizards of the Coast are aiming for the model demographic?
Oh, absolutely. They are. No, you're
Really?
joking. You're laughing. But they have really changed their demographics to where they are trying to get a much more diverse audience through the door. And they're successful at my store. So I don't know if they're successful the rest of the world, but they've really kind of like, I got a letter from somebody at Wizards of the Coast. I should not repeat this, and I'm going to. So I got a letter from somebody at Wizards of the Coast when they started their new Magic the Gathering Arena streaming program, and I volunteered to give them my exposure, which I charge tens of thousands of dollars for free because I love your game.
Right.
Let me do it for free. And you know what they told me? They said, when so many people of color, when so many diverse people out there are wanting to play this game and we have limited resources, why would we give those resources to a straight white man who's sided with conservatives before?
That's what Wizards of the Coast said?
No, one person at Wizards of the Coast said that.
Holy shit.
I don't know that he represents the entire company, but that one person said that. He said that there's a creator out there called The Quartering. Big shout out to Jeremy. He does good content. I don't really like a lot of what he has to say, but he's a good YouTuber. He's very successful. And because I sided with him one time on a topic, they're like, we're done.
Wow.
We'll give it to somebody else.
That's scary that they have this like liberal think tank mindset going on.
Which, like a lot of people ask me why I don't abandon the game. I love the game. Their politics doesn't really affect the game. The game is incredible.
That right there, I'm gonna be honest with you. What you just said makes me. There's a very small chance that I was ever gonna play Magic the Gathering again anyway. But that makes me like want to never support that company in any way because I feel like they're clearly like edging into the territory of being like unintentionally hateful towards the people they think that are their enemy. You know?
Right. It's really scary. Well, again, I think that one person speaking for Wizards of the Coast did not speak for the company. I would
probably
be
she had
honest
pink
with you,
hair
right?
for sure, right?
Well, it was a he actually.
He probably had pink hair.
I would name him here, but I don't want to get any more trouble with that company than
Does he have his pronouns in his bio?
No, he does not. Believe it or not. Yes, probably. Though most of the people that work for Wizards of the Coast do.
I am having a hard time wrapping around my head around.
Because they're a Seattle-based company, right?
Right.
I mean,
you having contributed so much to all these communities that it's far more than I've done to support the LGBT community by you opening these different game shops.
Oh, but don't forget, according to the internet, I am homophobic. I'm problematic.
But do you feel like people really believe that, or do you feel like that's just kind of like a fun troll thing?
There are people in the LGBT community who will never know me as anything but homophobic because they heard one thing about me, and that one thing is all they'll ever need to hear, and they'll never listen to anything else, right? And their mind is so made up that right now, when I tell them that I've been an ally, I've been a card-carrying equal rights campaign member since the organization was founded, right? When I tell them that I go to the drag shows at the Dixon Street Theater, when I tell them that my friend, that I've made out with a few guys in my lifetime. I've never gone all the way, but I found, if I ever find the right guy, I'm open to the idea. When I tell them myself, I'm a 1.5 on the Kinsey scale, they don't want to believe that. They would rather believe the narrative that I'm some hateful bigot. And I don't know why.
I'm going to be honest with you, though. If I was in your position there, I would be probably not in the position to want to put any kind of effort into changing their opinions because people who are like that can eat my shit as my
well, like my therapist said, and I have a lot of problems with anxiety, right? And you know that about me. And so it makes me really anxious when those people believe lies about me. I want to try to reason with them. But like my therapist has said many times, you can't reason with unreasonable people. The people on Reddit who astroturf me, the people on forums, on Twitter who attack me, these people, they're unreasonable. They are purposely obtuse. And you can't change delusion. If you've ever known a schizophrenic, I've known one schizophrenic, and you can't tell him that voice ain't real because that voice is real to him. And the narrative that I'm homophobic, that I'm problematic, that I'm a piece of shit is as real to them as the voices in a schizophrenic's head. How could I ever change it? So you're right, fuck them. But I don't wish ill on anybody. I'm never going to wish ill on anybody. I wish nothing but some sort of peace and love in this world, which is unobtainable, but you know.
So what led you to becoming a YouTuber in the first place? Like, what was the process there, or what was it that you were trying to do when you initially signed up?
I always wanted to act, and I did like one act play, and I did debate classes, and I did like extemporaneous speaking, and I wanted to be an actor, so I took college courses. And in the second semester of my acting classes, my professor pulls me aside and he goes, "Have you ever thought about radio?" And I'm like, "Why radio?" And he goes, "Well, you really don't have a leading man body." And I'm like, "What about John Candy? What about like Chris Farley? What about these guys? They're big." Because they're 1 in a billion. Right. A normal actor is 1 in a million. Those guys are 1 in a billion. Do you understand that? And you're not going to be that guy. I'm like, fuck you, right? Wow. But I gave up. I dropped out of his class and I just gave up. I'm like, I'll never act. I'll never be on television. I'll never have my dream. I guess I'll just go eat myself to death and die. Wow. And so YouTube came along, and I was already publishing on the internet the only way I could, which was doing like adult websites and doing like search engine optimization and making like comedy bits and stuff.
But you had given up on the idea of
and stuff
you being able to be the star of the show,
right?
Right.
And then 2006 rolls around, and I upload my first YouTube video, and people think it's funny, and I'm like, oh, I might be able to entertain. And then eventually, I created the very first Francis video, and it didn't do anything. The second Francis video did, and Ray William Johnson found it, and he called me a genius. And like, I went, holy fuck, if this guy thinks I'm a genius, and he's the #1 on YouTube at the time. Plus the exposure gave me like 10,000 subs when 10,000 subs really meant something, right? And it was enough to light the fire. And I'm like, I could do this. But originally, the very first video I uploaded was all about how fat and ugly and weird I am, right? I just wanted to serve as a bad example. And I hope maybe these days I serve as a good example. But at that time, I just wanted to say, look how fat and gross and ugly and fucked up I am. And look at my miserable life. Don't be me. Don't do what I did. Don't eat the way I did. Don't act the way I did. Don't make the choices I made. Look, laugh at me, poke fun at me. Just don't fuck up.
You think that resonated with people, that they liked the idea of someone who was calling attention to the ways that they were flawed?
I do. And I think a lot of people related to me as well because they were in the same position in their lives. And it's really fun. It's really funny because as I've dug my way out of that hole, I've lost a lot of those fans. They're like mad because I've made some progress, right? But that's okay because I hope that it inspires them to try to make progress too, right? Because that's the whole message I've ever had. Even though I told you guys I was going to lose weight for a decade, and it took a decade before I lost a fucking pound. And I had to get gastric bypass surgery to do it. My message has always been, you got to keep trying, do better than me. I suck, do better than me. And it does resonate, and it did resonate. And now that I'm making some improvements and got the stupid teeth in, I love my teeth actually. But,
no, I think they look great. And to be totally honest, I had never noticed that your teeth were fucked up. But then I started watching your later uploads, and I'm like, damn, his teeth look fucking good. And I went back and I looked, and I'm like, damn, your teeth were gnarly as fuck. But I never noticed.
But you learn to hide them, right? Like you try to, I was always able to hide the bottom row, and I tried to hide the top. And you notice in my thumbnails, I would smile like this, right? Or if I did open mouth, I would go like this. I go, so you couldn't see the back teeth. I would always, like you cover my teeth and my lips. And when I smile on photos, you smile closed-lipped. And you just learn how to, even when you're talking, you learn how to hide your teeth. And people treat you so different when you have nice teeth. I was hearing you talk about this in that video, yeah. Yeah, it's like going to the,
when you're getting on the plane, right?
And like people are making eye contact. And at the event yesterday, I mean, obviously I'm Boogie at these events, and everybody knows me as Boogie, and everybody's super nice to me at these events, right? But on top of that, people were still treating me even better than they normally do, right? And it's weird. It's weird because I didn't think teeth are that important. But big shout out to the people who did my teeth because they are giving away 12 surgeries to people who go to the website, and they gave mine away in exchange for like one YouTube video. And I made the video, but I'm still proselytizing because I'm so happy with the process.
Probably a shitload of money for that surgery normally, right?
It's like $30,000-$40,000. It's like $11,000 if you have Medicare,
right? And
it's like $30,000 or $40,000. Otherwise, if you need like a sinus lift, it can be more expensive, but it's worth it. If you had the teeth I have, it's worth it. But if you go to the website g4bygolpa.com, it's letter G4 GOLPA.com. They're doing a giveaway, and you make a video talking about your life, talking about how bad your teeth are, and they're going to give one away every month. And so originally I was hesitant to get the new teeth, but when they told me that they would do that for my community, for my fans, they were going to probably do it anyway, but then I could tell my fans about it and get that for those people and change their lives. I'm like, well, let's go through it. Let's see if it's worth recommending. If it is, I'll absolutely do it.
Yeah. And so are they veneers, or are they like they're fake teeth, right?
So they pulled everything. Because veneers go on your original teeth, right?
They go over it, right.
And so they pulled everything because I only had 17 teeth left and 14 were infected, dude.
Wow.
I was literally walking around with just a face full of infection.
Were you in a ton of pain when you were eating?
All the time. I was in pain when I wasn't eating. I was in pain when I was sleeping. I was just all the time in pain. And what's even crazier, I've had back pain my whole life. It improved my back pain because my doctor said, look, you are constantly inflamed because you're constantly fighting infection. When we get that infection out of you, your back pain's going to improve. And he's damn right. I can't believe I did 5 miles of walking at Universal on Tuesday the other day with hardly any pain. I'm in more pain from blisters on my feet than I am back pain. I couldn't believe it.
I've heard that from other people over the years that they had some sort of, I've found out about a dude who's a pro BMX rider who claimed that he had like the worst back pain ever, and then he had some kind of surgery on his teeth, and it turned out that there was something with the alignment or whatever, and that was the thing that was keeping him off his bike. like.
I'm not surprised. Teeth are so important. You don't realize it's such a, because when you really think about it, when you think of yourself as you, right? You think of your hands, your arms, and your head, right? And then your body is
What are
one
people
unit,
looking
right?
at? Boom, right there.
Right there in the face, right? And so, but yeah, people treat you really, really different. And it was a huge, huge difference. But the recovery was not perfect.
Right.
I went home and started working right immediately, right? And the way they do it, it's a 24-hour transformation. Because I went to my local dentist, and they said, we'll pull all the teeth on the right, then we'll pull all the teeth on the left a week later, then we'll pull all the teeth on the top a week later, and we'll pull all the teeth on the bottom a week later.
Right.
And then we'll finally fit you for dentures. And I'm like, that's 6 weeks of shit. I can't afford 6 weeks off of YouTube. My career will be dead.
Right.
And she's like, well, that's just how it has to be done. But these guys did it in 24 hours, right?
Right.
So I was eating a steak dinner 24 hours after they pulled my teeth.
And it felt comfortable.
And it felt comfortable, right?
Wow.
But what they did is they pulled every tooth, and then they drill screws into the skull, and then screws into the jawline, and they take one giant plate. And so even the gums are prosthetic here.
Right.
They're growing over my original gums. All of this is one giant bridge that screws into the screws on my skull. And so it is an implant. It's permanent. And it's got a hell of a maintenance routine. I have to do twice as much as I would have had to do when I had normal teeth if I had taken care of my normal teeth. So I have to water pick them every night. I got to brush them every night. I got to floss underneath them every night. And I got to use mouthwash a few times a day to keep everything out. Every time I have to eat, I have to now wash my mouth out to make sure I get all the debris out of the corners and stuff. And it's getting easier every day. But one weekend, I ended up springing a leak because I was talking too much. And I called my doctor, and I'm like, dude, I'm bleeding. Should I be bleeding? And he goes, oh, that's never happened, Boogie. And I'm like, really? Because yeah, it's insanely rare.
Talking so much that you're just bursting blood everywhere.
He's like, have you been eating a lot? I'm like, dude, I'm a fat guy. Yes. He goes, but have you been eating hard or difficult foods? I'm like, no. I've been eating soft stuff like you told me. He goes, okay. Have you been talking a lot? And I'm like, no, I barely talked at all. And he goes, how much did you talk today? I said, well, I did PKA. I did a 4-hour podcast. Then I filmed a YouTube video, so I talked for an hour there. Then I streamed on my Twitch channel for like 3 hours. So I barely talked for 8 hours today. And he's like, would you sit down and shut the fuck up, you idiot? Like, go just...
They just wanted a couple days of you chilling out with the talking?
Right, and that's, of course, fixed it, right? They healed. But I literally, the sutures on on the bottom left here, they just split because I was talking too much because my tongue is connected to my gums, and the more I moved my tongue, the more...
It's crazy how in tune people are with, number one, the teeth thing. Did you have people constantly suggesting that you might be on drugs because your teeth were fucked up?
No, because obviously I don't think you can be as fat as I can.
Don't really seem like a meth head, I'll be real.
Yeah, right. Because here's the thing, you may not know this about me, but I can't handle weed. I wish it could. It makes me super paranoid and super nervous. I've never found the right strain, if the right strain exists. I've never been able to take anything hardcore. I do want to take DMT at one point because I hear it helps with PTSD. What are you doing later tonight? And then I don't drink because I come from a long line of alcoholics. I've tried it a couple times, but it also makes me anxious and paranoid and miserable. So I don't really have anything to take off the edge. I picked one vice though, and look what I did with that, man. I got up to 600 fucking pounds off cheeseburgers. Do you have any idea how many cheeseburgers you have to eat in one sitting to get to 600 pounds? You have to go to McDonald's and go, one please, and like, one what? And you're like, one of each.
Right.
You have to really try to get to 600 pounds.
I hear that. No, I mean, cheeseburgers were always my vice because I've always kind of struggled my weight. Like, I'm in a pretty good place right now, but I mean, I was at one point like over 300 pounds.
No, you weren't. I've never known that about you.
No, or almost 300 pounds. I was like 290. This was over about 10 years ago.
But you're like 6 foot too, right?
I'm 6'3". But
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest with you. I was a pretty decent 300, like, because I was working out a lot at that time too. I was lifting weights like crazy, but I also just gotten pretty fucking fat. And hamburgers were always my vice. Hamburgers, pizza, and just ice cream and candy in general, it's always like, I'm the kind of person that I have to really like consciously eat good because there's a big part of my brain that hates myself and wants to eat terribly all the time.
That's exactly me, right?
You're the hate yourself guy.
And so like I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, all right, because my PA started cooking because he's cooking for himself anyway, right? So I'm like, hey man, make us some turkey bacon and egg whites, right? And I'll get that, and that'll be like 350 calories. And I'll be like, I've got a good day going, right? And then lunchtime will roll around, and I'll be in the middle of work, right? So I'll just grab some fruit and like a banana and like part of an apple, and just like put a little peanut butter on it. So there's another 500 calories. I'm like, I'm killing it today. And then something stressful will happen at work, and I'm like, we're getting Mexican. Fuck it. Chad, go get
Fuck
Mexican,
it. That's
dude.
my
I'm so
attitude
fucking
too,
mad.
yeah.
And I'll eat like 2 or 3 fucking burritos worth of, wraps worth of shit.
Right.
And I put the rest in the fridge. And then maybe later that night I finish it off. And that's 2,000 calories because I'm an idiot. Right. But it's one of the very few coping mechanisms I have because I can't drink, I can't smoke, I can't do anything else. I'm learning to get exercise, but you have to remember, 2 years ago, I was in a wheelchair for everything I did, not just shows, but even sometimes in my own house. I was having trouble going from the bathroom to the bed sometimes, man. I'd have my wife carry me around the house, my ex-wife.
You're down what, like 200 pounds?
250 pounds from my biggest, 150 from surgery.
Wow, 250 pounds though is insane. Like compare right now to how you felt then.
Oh, it's insane, right?
That's crazy.
And then, like, one of the craziest parts is I talked to my doctor recently, and he's going to do my skin removal. And at first I didn't want to do.
So you got to get it all tightened up and everything.
Well, so I've got actual breast tissue because I had estrogen in my bloodstream. So I have actual C cup worth of tits up here, plus a bunch of skin and fat. And then this lower belly, I showed it off on H3. I've showed it off in a YouTube video recently too. I have a meat apron is what I call it. It's literally hangs almost down to my knees in front, right? It makes sex super awkward, but it makes walking and exercise super painful, super awkward.
You
right?
ever run up behind somebody and just like wrap it over their head?
No, but I was talking about like when I find the right girl, and I'm real picky about who I'm going to take.
You will let her live inside your kangaroo pouch.
I literally would just like, if we're going to do doggy style, I got to take it and lift it up and lay it on her back. Right? And if I'm on top, I literally have to just smother her with it. I'm like, here's a sheet of meat. You know?
Dude,
and so
I will buy your private snap to see that.
I will start selling it, man. If that wouldn't ruin my YouTube career, because I have no problem showing off my body, except also I do. Because like it's so awkward to meet a girl and have her be interested and have her throwing signs. And I've turned girls down who are clearly ready to go back to my place because I don't want to show this person my body yet because I'm so nervous. But my doctor says that I could expect to lose 30 pounds from the first surgery, from the lower part here, because it's so full of just skin, right?
Oh my God.
And then maybe another 10 or 15 from the top here, because I think he's going to do the arms at the same time.
Wow.
So 30, 40, 50 pounds of what I'm carrying right now theoretically could be cut off.
Yeah.
Right. It might be as little as 20 in the end. I don't know, but I'm trusting what he says. And then when he says 30 pounds of skin,
you're still motivated though. You like are determined to keep losing weight, or how do you feel about the place that you're in right now?
I'm happier right now physically than I've ever been, healthier than I've been since 10th grade. And so I'm really happy about it. But it's one of those snowballing things where I walked 5 miles at Universal, and if you keep walking 5 miles a day, when you're used to being sedentary, you're going to keep losing weight. And so that's been my major goal. I'm eating shitty now, and I hate myself for it, and I can't seem to stop the same way. I have never been able to. But my portion sizes are way better than they've ever been because of the gastric bypass surgery. If I eat too much, I get sick and throw it up, so I don't want to throw up, right? And so I limit myself at about a half portion of what you're probably going to eat most of the time, because otherwise I get ill. But I just choose the wrong foods. But the plan now has been exercise. So I went through physical therapy about a year ago. And when I went into physical therapy for my back, he's like, look, we need to teach you how to do everything again. You need to learn to walk again. You're walking like a 600-pound guy. You're 380. You got to get your shit together.
Right.
And so we physical therapy made a huge difference. And I started walking down to the end of the block, and then around the block, and now 2 blocks, and then 3 blocks, and now 5 blocks, now Universal.
You know, I think that I think I got reacquainted with you as a creator after me originally seeing the Francis meme when Pokemon Go came out.
Oh, I love that shit.
Because I was searching Pokemon Go and just watching. I think I found out about a lot of YouTubers that way. Like, I don't think I had ever watched like Nade Shot before that.
I know.
But then
he's such a good Pokemon YouTuber too.
Yeah.
He's so good.
And it's weird too, because I'm going to be honest with you, as long as we're talking about addiction and quitting things, I am 1 week clean from Pokemon Go right now.
Really?
And it feels pretty good because do you understand the video game addiction
Right,
as much as me? I mean, there's been a long 2.5 years that I've been playing this damn game.
I started playing. I gave it up after like it stopped trending, right? And then I came back to it when I wanted to start walking again. I gave it as a reason to walk just up and down the street, then around the corner, then to the local Pokestop, and take my dog the whole way. And now I play it every time I travel. I only play when I travel. But the games that fuck me up, Magic the Gathering, Arena, Hearthstone. I will spend so much money on those games. Every time Hearthstone comes out with expansion, I spend $150. Magic the Gathering creates a new expansion, I spend $100, right? And then I'm buying physical cards too. Like, that's my addiction, and I'm so bad with it. I've been playing Magic for 25 years, man. My collection is worth, I don't want to tell you how much. If I ever liquidate it, I'm never going to, so it's worth effectively $0. But I got single cards that are worth $2,000 or $3,000.
I sold all my rares on eBay when I was in college.
Oh, you idiot.
And I think
What year? What year are you talking?
95,
my
96,
God.
97.
Do you have any power like time walks and time twisters and ancestor recalls or anything?
Probably. I mean, I remember at the time it was the Moxes and then the
Right,
Black
right,
Lotus.
yeah,
Those
yeah.
were like the super in demand cards. That I didn't have from that era. Those
Okay,
were
good.
already like
Okay,
highly
good.
revered
Right,
by the
right.
time I started playing.
Yeah, they were selling for like $20.
Right.
I met a guy the other day and he's like, "You like Magic?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, I'm a collector of power. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, let me show you a card." And the card he showed me was an Alpha Black Lotus rated 9.5. There's only a handful of 10.0 rating cards that have ever been found from Alpha
10.0
Lotus.
as in like the damage to the card, right?
Right,
Yeah.
like the centering and shape and color and
the
like
centering and
right,
shape
all
too.
of it's
Wow.
so important, right?
Wow.
And so there's only like a handful of 10s that have ever been found, and he had a 9.5. And so I asked him how much he paid, and he wouldn't tell me. So I looked it up, and if he paid $80,000 to $100,000 for that card, he got a good deal.
That's how much that could go for.
That's how much an Alpha 9.5 rated Black Lotus would go for. Yeah, it's
God.
completely insane.
And there's a market. There's people who want to spend $100,000 on that.
Right, but it's a small market, but you need to remember there were only like 1,000 of each Alpha Rare ever printed.
Right.
So there's a very limited number of Lotuses that were ever printed. And then on top of that, Alpha otherwise, because there's other Lotuses, but the Alpha Lotus is about 1,000. And then how many of those got damaged from play, right? How many of those got lost or burnt, right? And so when you find a 9.5 Lotus, a 10.0 Lotus, you found a unicorn,
Right.
man. There was a 10.0 Alpha Black Lotus that sold for $200,000 on eBay, and I guarantee you that card's worth about $100,000. And you know who owns? I heard that it's Steve Wozniak.
He
Who
owns it.
owns that 10.0 Black Lotus.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard it was Steve Wozniak. I don't know for
I wonder
sure.
how much he's worth, because I would assume that he's not worth that much, and
got-
that might be a big part of his how much he's worth.
I
Or
don't
am
know. There
tripping?
was a video that was trending recently showing off his Magic collection. He wasn't in it, but somebody was showing off all the unopened boxes of Alpha and Beta and like Unlimited and Legends and stuff that he had.
Me,
And it was
you,
completely
Woz,
insane.
and PewDiePie draft. We'll do that.
Fuck, that would be great.
Dude, I went to a draft one time when I was in 7th grade, and I just remember this horrific memory that I left my deck on a table while I was looking at some other cards I was thinking about buying.
Right,
and
right.
that, when I think about it, that was the only time I ever went to a Magic event, and if things had gone smoother, if I hadn't just left my deck on a fucking random table where somebody obviously stole it, then maybe I would have got more into it, and maybe that would have became my life.
Right,
It's kinda
exactly,
strange
yep.
to think about.
I had a friend build a deck we took to Memphis for a Grand Prix. and he had 4 Baneslayer Angels and 4 Lotus Cobras, $20 card, 20, 20, 50, 50, 50. It was $1,000 deck, right? And he lost the first 2 rounds, and he got mad, and he left the building. And I'm like, "Hey, Greg, are you going to go get food? Because I need food, because I'm playing." And he's like, "Nope." And then he comes back empty-handed, and all he had with him was this deck box originally. And he couldn't have gone to the car. We didn't stay at the hotel. I don't know where his deck box is. And so I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, did you set your deck down somewhere? Did you lose it?" He goes, "Nope." I said, "Where's it at?" He goes, "The river."
He threw it.
He threw his $1,000 deck into the river. He was so mad at the game. I've seen
Wow.
people do some crazy shit because of this game.
That's crazy. But would you say that the health of Magic is pretty strong overall?
It's stronger since Magic the Gathering Arena launched. It's stronger than it's
How
ever
long
been.
ago did that come out?
About a year and a half now.
Because that is it. Because I had never seen anybody play Magic online until PewDiePie randomly
Magic
uploaded
Online
a
fucking
video.
sucks. MTG Arena is amazing.
That's what made it better.
Yeah, it's a brand new client. It's standard only, so it doesn't have the old really hard cards to code. But I will tell you, one of the funniest things was to watch the Magic community implode on itself when PewDiePie
When he
played
did that
game.
single
Right,
upload.
yeah.
So that was the first time he had
he's
done
done
that?
3 now.
Oh, 3, okay.
But the first time he did it, they were all there's a bunch of people awesome, PewDiePie is going to expose our game to a tremendous number of people. All our collections just got worth more money. Hooray, this is great. And there were a bunch of people yeah, but doesn't he kill babies or something? He's a super Hitler, isn't he, right?
Yeah.
And they're we don't want him associated with our game, and he's going to bring a bunch of white supremacists into our game. And I heard rumor mill. I don't know anybody Wizards Coast, but I heard rumor mill that originally they were thinking about banning his MTG Arena account because they didn't want him playing, and then decided that would be catastrophe, so didn't do it.
Oh
But
my
I
God.
heard that it got tossed around inside the company. Maybe that's something we should consider doing, because they have done that. They've banned people for their politics.
Really?
Yeah, Owen Turtwald is a Magic player who got accused of harassment, and when I say accused, it looks like he might have done it. I don't know. But it was some fairly damning evidence, it sounds like.
But he got his account banned.
But he got kicked out of the Magic Pro League, and I don't think he's allowed to play anymore.
Oh my God.
And so I agree with that one. Right?
I had no idea that the social
agree.
justice censorship wave had crashed onto Magic the Gathering as well.
I think if you're accused and it's pretty provable that maybe you hurt somebody,
but
then,
harassment or like you know, it sounds like a sketchy line.
there are gray areas,
Yeah.
right? Or there are gray areas, and I'm not going to say that, but like they also banned, like the guy I mentioned earlier, the quartering because of his politics and stuff, and told him he's not allowed to play anymore, and that's weird.
I have to look into
weird.
this more because all of a sudden I'm like mega fascinated by this. What are your thoughts on PewDiePie? Do you have any kind of like reservations about supporting him or anything?
So he's clearly fucked up a few times. I've been making content for 12 years. I've never said the N-word, and I don't plan to start. So that's a pretty stupid mistake, Felix, and I think he knows it. And I think the whole Fiverr thing, I think that was the dumbest. I always tell all my comedian friends, and I know a lot of comedian friends. I was hanging out with Nimmer just on Monday while I was here, and all of my comedian friends, the joke has to be worth it, right? Like Louis C.K. did the Parkland shooting joke, and that joke wasn't worth it. Right.
Yeah.
You gotta have a point to your jokes, right? I don't see the joke for the point of the Fiverr joke, right? I don't think that joke was worth it.
In retrospect, given the amount of scrutiny that he has taken since then, that really seems like yesteryear that he felt comfortable enough making a joke like that.
Obviously, he's definitely changed for the better. That's something I always advocate for. I think somebody like Felix, we don't have to have a Felix is over party. We don't have to have a PewDiePie is over. We don't have to destroy the guy. Let him learn from his mistakes and serve as an example of somebody who's gotten better and learn from those mistakes, because it incentivizes other people to learn from their mistakes. And I do not doubt for a second. You saw this PewDiePie apology video for the Christland shooter.
Yeah, or just getting rid of the meme, the subscribe to PewDiePie meme. Yeah,
and that's clearly a humbled guy. That's clearly a guy who feels awful, feels terrible. And I know for a fact, because I barely know Felix at all, but the fact that the Christchurch shooter mentioned his name ruined him for days, if not weeks. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the pain. And I got a lot of flack for saying that on Twitter. I'm like, I tweeted about the shooting and like how awful it was, and then I saw a tweet from Felix and I responded. He's like, I'm disgusted that this man uttered my name and I can't believe this shit. As I responded, I'm like, I can't imagine the amount of pain you're in, Felix. We know that we love you, you know? And the internet lost their minds. Like, how dare you support that Nazi? How dare you? Oh, you're worried about the pain he's in. What about the people? I've addressed the people in New Zealand. Of course I feel bad about the people in New Zealand. Of course I feel bad about the people who lost their lives. I'm not a fucking monster. But can I also feel bad for a fellow YouTuber who's got wrapped up in this unwittingly, unknowingly? Like,
and by someone who clearly had sinister intentions, because the person who said subscribe to PewDiePie or whatever, it would be one thing if we were talking about some dumbass kid who really just thought it was funny to say subscribe to PewDiePie before he shot a bunch of people. If you read that manifesto, if you actually look at all the things that he was saying, it's clear that he was trying to fuck over Candace Owens, that he was trying to fuck over PewDiePie, that he wanted to create this sort of reaction, and it's insane to see so many people buying into it.
It's so fascinating because he clearly, from what little of the manifesto I've read, he clearly wanted to further the divide. That's what I think it's his words. I want to further the divide.
Amazingly successful too.
And people fell unwittingly or even willingly into it, right? Because there's a lot of people out there, and I know I'm gonna get bullied for what I'm about to say, because when you talk about bullies, you get bullied. And I don't care anymore. I got new teeth. No,
new teeth, new man.
But seriously, there are people out there who willingly charged into that and bullied and spread open the divide because they like to be the bad guy. They like to be the bully. They convince themselves, I'm the good guy. I'm the good guy, right? I'm fighting those leftist idiots because they're leftist idiots. I'm fighting those right idiots because they're idiots, right? And all techniques are fair. All techniques are fine as long as my side wins, right? And they saw the Christchurch shooter say that shit, and they don't care. They don't care. They genuinely don't care, because it's another excuse to be a vitriolic piece of shit, and they love it. And they love it. They love
There's so many
garbage.
like bad actors in our current political landscape who that is what they get off on, is being able to misrepresent what people's words are, and that's the biggest thing that I notice, and that is the biggest determining factor when it comes to who I'm willing to listen to. Like, I listen to a lot of Sam Harris as long as I'm going to expose who I fuck with in terms of podcasters and stuff like that. I'm a huge Sam Harris fan, and the reason why I fuck with Sam Harris and I feel so comfortable being one of his mega fans is because I feel like he confronts criticism openly and honestly, and he's not trying to put words into the mouths of people who are his opponents and trying to present unfair opinions, but people are constantly doing that to him. They're constantly trying to present him as if he's this Islamophobic monster and like completely trying to take everything that he says out of context. And that is, I do not respect that when it comes to politics. I don't respect anybody who their jig is that they go around and they try to put words in people's mouths that they didn't actually say. And if that is how you are getting by in this world, is your racket is that you just love to paint people as saying things that they never really said, or to take things out of context. I'm not a big Ilhan Omar, whatever the fuck her name is. I'm not a big fan of her, but the way that Trump and them have painted her as being this like extreme like terrorist sympathizer, it's sickening. She didn't say the shit that they're representing her as saying, and it is horrific. And anybody who behaves in that way should be taken outside of the serious political discussion.
And it's so common in the YouTube community because I follow a lot of YouTubers who are also getting hate, and some of the same people that hate me hate other people. Like, I don't want to drop names because I don't want to draw any negative attention to people, but there are definitely creators out there who I love, who I know are genuinely good people, but Reddit and 4chan, they think they're monsters, right? And I get lumped into that too. There's plenty of people out there who, for example, I just bought a Magic the Gathering store. I just told you about that, right? And so on stream one night, I was talking about how Magic cards are tax write-off for me, right? Of course they're tax write-off. I've been building a Magic collection to sell at a Magic store. Idiots, right? And somebody in chat's like, hey, so if I sell a Magic card, I have to report that to the income? And I'm like, no. If there's no paper trail, you don't have to report the income. Don't worry about it, right? And so I go back to explaining that I have Magic cards for tax write-off. And so that goes viral as Boogie2988 admits to tax fraud. Dude, I make so much money, and I wrote off like $1,000 for the Magic cards last year. What are you talking about? Okay, I paid more in the taxes than most people earn in 3 years. You know, no offense, I'm not that rich, but I do okay. And I proudly pay my taxes because I know it goes to defend this country. I know it goes to Social Security. I know it goes to welfare. I know it goes to people who are struggling, Medicare, Medicaid. I want to put that money into those boxes because I was on disability once. I needed Medicare. I needed Medicaid, and it helped me build my business. So when I cut my check, I ain't cheating. I'm glad to cut a nice big check. Because I'm fortunate, and it's my job to cut that check. I ain't Amazon. I ain't Activision. I ain't trying to pay zero. I'm trying to pay my fair share.
I'm trying to pay as little as possible, but I'm also willing to pay my fair share. I mean, that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The amount of money that I paid in taxes this year, I saw that amount leaving my bank account, and I was like, it was a weird, bittersweet thing. Like, I'm so happy that I've gotten to the point where I make this amount of money, that this is what the government thinks that they deserve out of what I
Right, exactly, right?
You know, it's a bittersweet thing. Like, I'm glad I got here, and I'm also kind of horrified that this is
You and I are probably
normal.
you and I are probably in that Trump bracket, the one where he made it worse for everybody. Like if you're near the top, you got breaks, and then those breaks are getting paid for the upper middle class and the lower upper class, right? And we're probably both right in that area and doing pretty good for ourselves, you know?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good, but not outlandishly good. Not the 100 millions that would make it really beneficial.
Right. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to have like millions of dollars to my name. That's never going to happen. That dream is dead after I got divorced.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have to give her a percentage? You have child support?
She got half. No child support. Nothing like that. My wife was actually pretty generous when we got divorced. She wanted what she was entitled to, and she was entitled to half in Arkansas, but she didn't really want much more. And she was like cool about it, honestly. You know, so she could definitely try to make a bid for the business and say, I helped build that business. I was in every Francis video. She could have easily tried to do that, but she had no interest. She just wanted to leave me happy, but she wanted to make sure that the rest of her life was going to be taken care of too. You know?
Right.
And I wanted the same thing, so it wasn't a big deal. It's still a big financial hit, right?
Right.
You know, to go from X numbers to half that, you know.
That's all right there. Sounds like the kind of thing that could drive a man insane.
Right, but that is also a woman who carried me through my gastric bypass surgery, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be alive right now. So it was money well earned.
So you don't feel any kind of resentment towards her?
Yeah, to some extent, right? Like I when I got married, I said till death do us part, and I meant it. And, you know, unfortunately she didn't, and that's okay.
Right.
You know, and honestly, I'm glad we got divorced now that we are. So there's some resentment, and I wish that we could have made it work, and I really wanted to make it work. But then there's the realization that we couldn't have made it work. It just wasn't working. We were not meant to be.
Right.
We were meant, I think, I don't really believe in God. I don't really believe in fate, but I think we were meant to be together for exactly as long as we were together. And she helped me, and I helped her, and we got what we got, and we needed what we needed, and now we are where we are, and it's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
You know?
What is it about you that it makes so many people want to troll you and talk shit about you and fuck with you. From my years of following you, I've never really been able to understand what it is that would make people want to, try to shit on you. You just have always seemed like a pretty nice guy and a guy who's very aware of his shortcomings.
There's three things, I think. The first of which is, like, someone once called me the Mr. Rogers of YouTube, and I ain't that. Right. Like, I was in the adult industry for a while. I mean, I've shot content before, like not me naked or anything like that, but I shot softcore stuff. Right. I did web design for like Raven Riley and a bunch of people in the 90s. Right. Cyberotica and those sites. So I'm definitely not a clean person or anything like it. I try to be nice, but I'm not all that nice all the time either. And people who've seen my YouTube videos, who've seen my streams, know that I've got an edge on me as well, right? I am a hurt, broken person. I have PTSD. Sure, I get angry sometimes. Sure, I say outlandish shit sometimes. So a lot of people just want to break down that Mr. Rogers, what they consider a facade. They think I'm not genuinely a nice person. And I'm not, to some extent. I am a broken person trying really hard to be nice. That's more what I'm like. I try consciously all the time to do what I think is the right thing and to do the nice thing and to be a kind and good person. And I fail all the time because I suck. But I think that's one of the biggest things. I think the second thing is people look at me and they see a morbidly obese person and they see that I got the video games I want to play and I got the house I want to live in and I got the girl that I want to date and I got the friends and I got the dog and I got the career, and they want that and they don't have it. And if they think very little of me and they think I'm beneath them and they don't have it, I don't deserve it, right? That's a big thing. It's not really jealousy as much as it is, well, maybe it is jealousy. I don't know. But that seems to be another really big part of it.
And it's crazy how we've come so far as a society, but it still feels like everybody hates fucking people based on physical stuff. Like the hatred for fat people is still strong, and people that still. I mean, I know this is a ridiculous example, but I've been watching a show of Game of Thrones. I'm just thinking about the way people treat the dwarf,
Tyrion Lannister, and
it. I mean, certainly would play out the exact same way. Like if you knew someone was a dwarf and it was your friend and he's around a lot, then people are gonna be talking shit about it, or like,
of course,
like maybe in our world today, like the kind of people I know, they would probably be able to be nice about it and not be in their face about it. But people are still so constantly hung up on physical stuff.
You remember what Tyrion says in the first episode, right? He says, "Never be ashamed of who you are. Wear it like armor, and no one will be able to use it against you."
Oh, that's a good one.
And I try to remember that all the time. Like I try to, and I talk about this with Ethan today too. Is talking about being your authentic self, to try to be the most authentic version of myself as I can. And that's tough sometimes as a YouTuber, right? Because you don't want to upset anybody. You want anybody to give you their gotcha moment, right? But I try to be unrelentingly myself. But that's a difficult thing to do because I'm very multi-sided, because I'm broken, because I'm hurt, because I'm depressed, because I'm sad, because I have all these mental health issues, right? I post-traumatic stress disorder. I dissociate. It's a struggle, right? And the person that I am when I'm dissociated is very different from the person I am when I'm conscious. And so when I am consciously acting, consciously thinking, I'm always actively trying to be a good person, right? I don't know. I don't know. Should I just be a piece of shit 24 hours a day? That seems to be what Reddit would want of me.
Right. I mean, it's weird. I feel like I maybe avoid a lot of shit because people can tell that I have pretty thick skin and that I'm not going to be terribly affected.
That was the third reason, right? The problem is I've always been so open about my anxiety, so open about my depression. They know I'm a target, right? And I will respond on Twitter. I will respond on Reddit. When that tax evasion thing came out, another example. Here's this story I love to tell. The very first girl I ever dated, I met her at the age of 15. She was 14. I lost my virginity to her when I was like 16. She was 15. And we were best friends until she died 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And when we were growing up, we both had an edgy sense of humor because we both grew up in abusive homes. And so we loved to make jokes about death. We'd make jokes about all the dark shit. And one of her favorite catchphrases was, "I hope you get cancer. I hope you get cancer too. I can't wait till you die of cancer." And the reason she said that was because she used to work hospice. As a teenager, she would sit with dying people and get paid like $5 an hour to wait and see if they died. And if they didn't, change the bedpans and help that shit. So that was one of her ways of trying to make ends meet. And she didn't have a choice in that job. Her foster mother made her do that job. You need to be bringing money in. You're 16. Anyway. So in college, she would make that joke. And one day she said, "I hope you get double cancer." Well, what is double cancer? Like, that's funny, right? You've got a dark sense of humor. That's hilarious. What is double cancer? Because I hope you get a cancer so bad it gives you a second type of cancer. I hope you get like ass cancer and dick cancer or whatever. And so that was her catchphrase for years. Like, I hope you get a double cancer. I hope you get double cancer. So she got cancer. She got breast cancer because she was a very well-endowed woman, and she didn't. It went on for a while. She ended up getting a mastectomy, and she fought it for like 3 years. And remember, this is my best friend, and we talked on the phone every week, sometimes every day. And we'd known each other since we were 3 years old, and we dated from 15 to 22, you know. And it's probably one of the loves of my life. I loved her the way I loved my ex-wife.
Right.
You know? And so she's dying, and it's miserable. And I go to visit her a couple of times, and it's heartbreaking. But she's got a dark sense of humor, and I got a dark sense of humor. So we would tell jokes all the time, the worst jokes. And the final conversation I get to have with her is 3 days before she passed. And I'm at a party at my house, and I sneak off to the bathroom. And she calls, and she's like, "Hey, am I dying alone here? I haven't heard from you in like 5 days." I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's just work and stuff." And she's like, "I think this is going to be it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She goes, I'm dying. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. And I said, "You know, did I ever tell you I'm sorry that we didn't make it work? And I'm sorry for all the shit we did to each other." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Ever tell you I was sorry?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so we made our apologies, and we made our ends meet. And I told her, I said, "I'll always love you, always have, you know." And she said, "I love you too." And she goes, "Can you fucking believe I got double cancer?" Because she got breast cancer, and it gave her lung cancer.
Wow.
The treatment for the breast cancer gave her lung cancer. She literally died of the thing that she made fun of. And I said, "Yeah, I always told you." I laughed so fucking hard because it broke the tension, it broke the moment. And I laughed so hard, and she was laughing. And I'm like, "I told you when we were kids you were going to get cancer because you said that shit all the time." She goes, "Well, you were right. Karma's a bitch, you know." And that was the last conversation we ever had. And then 3 nights later, I was in Hot Springs with my wife. And I get a phone call from her husband, and he's like, "She passed tonight." And I sent her like a gift package, and it had one of these little koosh balls in it. If you remember those little rubber band balls, and we would shoplift those when we were in high school together because we had both broke and we had no money, and it was a way for us to like have fun things. And so she passed holding that koosh ball. And I told this exact story, and when I got to the dark part, I laughed. I was talking to Andy Melanakis. I was talking to Greek God on a podcast. When I told the double cancer joke, I laughed, and the internet's like, "Look at this piece of shit dying at his ex-girlfriend's life," right? So on Reddit, when I got accused of tax evasion, that story came up, and I went in to explain it to him. And like, "You're a fucking liar. You're making shit up." Like, they so desperately want you to be a liar. They desperately want you to be a monster. They desperately want you. But it was a huge mistake to even try to, once again, reason with an unreasonable person. Yeah. Why do I have to prove that to him? I was Danny's friend for 30-some years. We were close to. I know the truth. I don't give a shit what he thinks, and that's how you seem to live your life, and that's how I need to live mine.
No, but I mean, it's totally understandable. My main thing with it is just that I think that it's more important in the long run for me to make offensive jokes and say offensive things because I think it's important for us to be able to still feel comfortable doing that. Right? And I'm willing to take a lot of flack, but I mean, shit, there's so much bad stuff that comes with it. I have had to delete jokes off Twitter in the course of the past year because I was getting so much shit for it that it just becomes this thing where it's like, it doesn't really matter if I think it's funny when my girlfriend is getting attacked on Twitter because she's dating me and I thought something was funny that other people now don't think is funny.
Yeah. I grew up on Sam Kinison and Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy, the Delirious set. Do you remember the Delirious set where he drops the F word like over and over? I'm not saying fuck the other one, you know, the LBGT one. And it's just like, it's offensive and awful and terrible, right? And I grew up on that sense of humor, and I loved it because who is the comedian that got arrested all the time? I can't remember his name right now for saying swears on stage. Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce, right? Yeah. I had a hero worship of Lenny Bruce, right? Because he pushed the edges. He created free speech and comedy, right? And then you had George Carlin come in, and George Carlin was so controversial when he was making his first HBO specials that they would run a 10-minute warning before the special that there was going to be swears in it, right?
Right.
And like, that didn't matter because Carlin was fucking hysterical, right? And I grew up on Carlin. I grew up on all these cynical assholes who make it. Andrew Dice Clay, right? And I love that sense of humor, especially when it has a point. I always point to, I don't like the joke Roseanne Barr made. I didn't care for that. I didn't think it had a point. I didn't think it was interesting. But
Same.
right, I don't necessarily know she needed to be fired for, but whatever. That's their lives. It's their decision. Right. But Dave Chappelle, when he uses racism to provoke humor, it's some of the funniest shit I've ever heard. Of course, he has the right to do that. He's a person of color, right? But when my favorite comedy sketch of all time is a Dave Chappelle sketch from the first episode of the Chappelle Show, the Black White Supremacist sketch, the one where there's a black guy who's blind and he hates other black people because he doesn't know he's black. That's one of the most insane perspectives on race I've ever seen in my life, right? And I'm obviously a white man, and I'm very privileged for that regard. I guess they tell me I am, and I believe it, right? But having dated several women of color, including Danny, who was a woman of color, and getting beat up in high school for dating a black girl and getting the shit beat out of me by bigots over and over again, I feel like I at least can relate, you know? And so I don't know, I do like race sometimes when it's used properly in comedy. I love offensive humor when it's used properly in comedy. I don't think it's, some people bully on the internet and say it's just a joke, and I don't think that counts. But when you have a point like Chappelle had, when you had a point like Richard Pryor had, or Sam Kinison, or even Andrew Dice Clay. Andrew Dice Clay, for stupid people, if you never got it, you were supposed to hate him for being a prick. That was the entire point. The
whole
character
concept,
you're supposed to fucking hate him.
Right.
You're not supposed to idolize him. Same as Rick and Morty. You're not supposed to idolize Rick. You're supposed to fucking hate Rick.
And that always gets lost in translation. I was reading this article about how people now, like when they showed The Office to all these like younger like kids, and that these kids just did not understand that the whole point of The Office is that, yes, we understand that Michael Scott is a dickhead, but that is the whole joke of the show, is that he's doing all these cringy, terrible things that nobody would actually do. And kids seem like separated from that. It's hard for them to understand the concept of like, this is funny because it's bad.
Right, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like he did you remember he did the big fat suit guy and
Michael Clunker.
Michael Clump. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's so funny, right? And like, I guess if I was 30 years younger, I would have been horribly offended, right? But again, you're talking about a generation that's been raised to hate anything, right? Like you can't make a joke, even if you're a person of color. You're not supposed to make a joke about race, even if it has a point, because we're not even supposed to talk about it.
And
anymore.
I feel like that's how it plays out on Twitter and stuff. But I'm going to be honest with you. I interview all these rappers, and every time I interview one of the rappers and they come in with a big squad of their friends or whatever, and everybody's joking around and people are making jokes about race, and people are saying like, hey, I'm black and you're white and this is funny. Like, let's call attention to like the differences between us. I feel like in the real world, everybody is still laughing and having a good time talking about the differences between cultures. And then on Twitter, it's just impossible for that line.
And that's the reality, right? That's the reality. Like Reddit is not reality. Twitter is not reality. Facebook is not reality. And a lot of people, for a lot of people, it is a reality. A lot of people live in a small town like the one I came from. Facebook is about as real life can get, because there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
Something's happening on Facebook. Nothing's happening here, right? And so I don't know, you get warped, and you get, especially when you're living in San Francisco, when you're living in Seattle, right? Like that's the entire culture there. Like here in LA, with a real diversity, you got a tremendous amount of diversity, and of course guys are going to talk about that here at this table, right? But I don't think you're going to hear a lot of that in San Francisco, because it's a pretty one-sided argument in San Fran.
And the reality is that there's no fucking black people that these people have to deal with on any kind of basis. They're not around people from other cultures so they live in this bubble in which all these white and Asian people are together. Like, oh, like we have to look out for the black people, blah blah blah. But there's no black people involved in these fucking conversations. It's insane.
Right. Well, like, I don't want to spoil anything for a movie that came out recently, but a movie came out recently, and one of the more fit characters from that franchise happened to be morbidly obese. And they made some jokes about the morbidly obese character, right? And there were a lot of fat shaming, quote, fat shaming jokes in the thing. None of that's actual fat shaming. You want to see fat shaming, check my Twitter timeline at some point, right? But none of what they did in that movie was fat shaming. And a lot of people are like offended for me. Like, you can't do that. It's offensive, right? I've seen skinny reporters saying, you can't say that. You can't do that. Bullshit. I felt represented in that movie. I liked seeing one of my favorite characters in one of my favorite franchises being big and fat. And even though there was the joke, I related to it, because the reason he got big and fat was post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. And that's why I fucking got fat. So I loved being represented on the screen. I love they went there. I love that they made that. And I don't mind the jokes. Okay?
Right. Because I mean, almost all stereotypes are based on some element of reality. And if you then deny the ability to write a character that in any way complies with a stereotype, then you're basically forcing a situation in which every character that you depict is going to have to be removed from the reality of what most people assume that person's existence would be like.
Right. And we're at a point now where Jerry Seinfeld, you couldn't get more clean cut than Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld doesn't want to perform on college campuses anymore. That's the point we're at.
Right.
He tells other comedians don't perform on college campuses. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a real problem.
Like, I remember I had a weird moment with it when it was just many, many years ago. It was 5-6 years ago. And I posted an article. At the time, daily vlogging was not a thing, really, as far as I knew. And there was this family blogger couple, and they had posted a video where they announced that they had a baby coming. And then the next day, they announced that they had a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember there was like a Gawker article about it or some shit. And I posted it on Facebook. And I said something more or less along, and this might have been 2012 or 13 or something. And I said something more along the lines of, this is why you don't fucking depict your life on YouTube every single day. Like, ironically, I now basically do that. But I mean, I was just like, this is why you don't fucking do this. And a member of my family hit me up right away and was like super offended. They're like, I had a miscarriage a couple of months ago, and you're over here making a joke about a miscarriage. Right. I'm like, I know tons of people who died from cancer. I still think we need to be able to make cancer jokes. I know tons of people who have been killed by drugs, and we still make drug jokes. I know tons of people who have been shot, and we still carry guns around, and we still make jokes about gunfights and all this shit. It's like, you cannot live your life with the idea that, like, oh, something traumatic happened to me one time, so therefore I don't want anybody to ever be able to find the humor in that thing.
I made jokes about my own abusive childhood. I made jokes about getting molested as a kid. I make jokes about all this stuff. I just don't do it publicly anymore because you really can't. I've said I made those. I still make those jokes when I stream twitch.tv/Boogie2988. But when sometimes I have that marked as mature, but I don't really put it on YouTube as much. But it's how I coped. And I will tell you a story. This is probably going to get me in trouble, but I'm going to tell you a story anyway. This will be the clip that everybody shares on Twitter and gets mad about.
You predict that, but more than anybody I've ever met in terms of just knowing that it's coming.
Oh, I know, yeah. And I'm still going to say it. Like, I know I should edit myself, but I'm not going to let myself be afraid, right? Like, let the hate fall. And if it ends my career, I die on my sword today, but I'm going to use my sword.
You should be so lucky to lose your career over something you said on this podcast.
Right. Well, you don't know, man, how I have some real dedicated people who are going to search every little fucking thing I say and do. They're so desperate to kill me. So, but my grandmother had Alzheimer's disease, right? And it was tough because I never really got to know my grandmother. I only really got to know the disease. And here's the thing. If you've ever doubted that mental illness is a thing, go find somebody with the delusions. Like, go find somebody with Alzheimer's, because you can see how the brain rots, and you can see how it's affected the same way any other organ would. The same way your kidneys can go bad, the way your heart can go bad, your brain can go bad. And that was happening to my grandmother. And so her death was tragic. It couldn't have been more tragic. She lived so long that her brain deteriorated to the point that her heart and lungs just would not beat anymore. They wouldn't do their rudimentary functions because her Alzheimer's developed so bad it ruined that part of her brain as well.
Right.
So she was a trooper. She fought so hard. But there was one point where young me experienced something really wild. Me and my mom were down in Kingsport, Tennessee, which is about 75, 80 minutes away from where my grandfather lives. And my mom's like, I want to go visit mommy and daddy. So she calls my grandfather on the phone, payphone, and says, how's Mama doing today? Is she having a good day? Yeah, she's real clear. She's real bright. She's real animated. Now would be a really great time to come visit. Bring the kids. So we drive that 75-minute way or 80-minute way. And while that's happening, he gets her up out of bed, gets her dressed, gets her down into her underwear, okay? And then he starts to put her pearls on her. And she gets it into her head that he's choking her, he's going to kill her. Now, that was real common because apparently my grandparents were abusive to each other at one point. I guess my grandfather abused my grandmother when they were younger. So as she reverted to, the younger state and then started losing her more recent memories, apparently that was a real common thing. So she went to the kitchen to get a knife to defend herself, and she went and got a butter knife because they already hid all the regular knives, right? But she found a butter knife, and she's wielding the butter knife. Carl, blah, blah, blah. We pull up to the house, and by the time we pull up to the house, she is out front, okay? Decided that knife needs to be taken away and hidden. So she's grabbed all the other knives, and she's burying them in the garden, and it's pissing rain, okay? She's covered in mud. Here's my 80-year-old grandmother burying butter knives in the garden, in her underwear. My grandfather standing on the front porch going, out the May, get your ass in this house. You're going to catch your death of cold, you dumb bitch. No, Carl, you're trying to kill me. I fucking hate you, Carl.
Holy shit.
And my 8 or 10-year-old brain sees this, and it made a decision. It decided that this was either the most traumatic fucking thing I'm ever going to experience, and I'm going to need therapy forever, or this is funny.
Right.
So I found the humor in it.
Yeah. That is a crucial junction right there.
So I started laughing, and my mother turned around from the front seat and said, "What the fuck are you laughing at?" And I said, I immediately came up with the first joke that came to mind, 10-year-old me, 8, however old I was. I said, maybe she's trying to grow buttercups because she's burying butter knives, right? Well, my mom punched me so hard I blacked out.
Whoa.
So, but that was pretty much where my sense of humor was formed.
Right.
Like, and it just was like that for the rest of my life. I laugh at the dark shit. I laugh at my own PTSD. I laugh at my own misery. I don't try to laugh at somebody else's experiences though, right? And I think that's a big difference. I ain't trying to make a joke of somebody else who suffered. But I don't mind joking my own suffering. The video I just released on YouTube, go watch it by the way, was a roast myself challenge. And I just made fun of like every old photo of myself that I could.
Right.
And I think it's funny. I think self-deprecating humor is fine. In fact, it's important. I think it's good. I think it's every comedian has to start with themselves, right? If you don't make fun of yourself, you can't make fun of nobody else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Do you feel like, so I feel like I've seen you on your channel sort of reconnect with your gamer, reviewer, commentator side, which I didn't see for many years being a subscriber. Is that like,
that's what I want to do now because I can't do Francis. And the other thing I've really enjoyed is the gaming stuff. So I want to get my audience into it, but it's hard because most of them are there for Francis. And then
that's what you really feel like all the subscribers primarily care about that?
Well, you got to keep in mind, I've got a 12-year-old account. So a lot of that 4.5 million subscribers are just dead in the water. They don't use a website anymore. Or some of them are actually dead at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So like I've only really got a user base of like 1 million maybe that really actually pay attention to anything. And out of that 1 million, I think about a third are mostly there because they want to see Francis videos, right?
Really?
And there's about a third that are there for the personal videos and about a third that care about the gaming.
But I noticed you've been having a big spike in your content, primarily from the teeth thing.
Yeah, the teeth thing really brought
it's
a lot
weird
of
that that's something that people wanted to see so bad.
Yeah, I think people want to see me make progress. There's people out there who are hurt by that progress. They're like, I can't believe you're not even the same person anymore. And I hate hurting people. It fucking drives me crazy. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm not their friend anymore. I want anybody to feel like
because you got your teeth fixed.
Yeah, I heard it a lot since I lost some weight, and then even more when I got my teeth fixed. Like I see tweets all the time. I can't even relate to you anymore. Who are you? You're turning into some sort of soy boy. You're turning into some sort of now you look pretty. Oh, I definitely don't look pretty, man. I don't look like this, man. I'm never gonna look like that. I look like the Michelin Man blew a tire. That's what I look like, Nick. I look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man got burned on a campfire. That's what I fucking look like.
Are these borrowed from your new video?
No, these are these I've written over the years. Yeah, right. Yeah. But like all that loose skin and shit's miserable.
But I find that interesting that it's like you feel like you're following like your true what you really want to do by doing like your commentary on video games.
What I really want to do is I want to swear on YouTube again. What I really want to do is break some shit. I want to wreck some cars. I want to burn down a house. I want to be Francis and I want to destroy shit. My YouTube rep is telling me that ain't a thing I can do.
Right.
And so if that's the thing I can't do, he said I can do it. I just have to change the formula. I can't swear and I can't be angry and I can't destroy things, which is the entire character, right?
Yeah.
So my friend McJuggernuggets, you ever heard of the Psycho series on YouTube? Yeah. He's got an app called Storyfire. Go to storyfire.com and download it today. You can also get it off of Android and iPhone.
Oh yeah, this is that thing you were talking about in the video.
Right. And so he has basically contracted me out to start making exclusive content for Storyfire. And he didn't even care what I put up there, but he prefers a narrative. He wants story-driven stuff. And so I just sat down and started scripting. And I've been scripting ever since. And I think we're going to start filming in June or July. And it's this hybrid story where Boogie's a character as well as Francis is the character, right? And they are the same person because they've always been the same person, right? But now I'm schizophrenic to some extent, right? Like, and so I have multiple personalities disorder. Not schizophrenia, but multiple personality disorder, which as far as I know, doesn't actually exist. I don't know if that's ever actually been diagnosed, but so that's the shtick. And so we're going to have me working at my local gaming store that I just bought, and we're just going to film during off hours, and we're going to have a lot of extras come in and like flipping tables and destroying shit.
Right.
And like it sucks because I would like to do that for YouTube, but if I upload a Francis video, and let's say that Francis video gets 100,000 views, I might get $40,
Right.
I might get 20.
Yeah.
Or I might get demonetized altogether, right?
Yeah.
And when you need a budget to hire 2 actors, hire a cameraman, and hire some stuff to break, you can't afford that, right? Like you lose money, right?
Yeah. That's how I feel every time I do one of these. That is like, you know, it's just I get a million views before they get around to reviewing it and monetizing it. And it's like, do you not understand what you're doing to your creators when you make the revenue this inconsistent?
They know exactly what they're doing. And if they don't, let me tell you what you're doing, YouTube. Number one, you're driving off your user base, not just your creators, but your viewers. And that's so important. TikTok's a thing now. It's not monetized. You and I can't make videos on TikTok and get paid probably, but that's where the users are going. Because they are advertising on motherfuckers, okay? And also, it's a really good app. You can hate it all you want, because there's a lot of shitty people on that app, but it's also really fun. I follow a lot of people with like different mental disorders, different physical disorders, and there's people. I've seen this guy up there with 100-some thousand subscribers, and he's like got Down syndrome, and I champion that guy. I watch everything he uploads. I love it.
Whoa.
I love checking on him. There's this girl I know with like 50,000 subscribers on TikTok. She's got Tourette's, and she talks about her struggles with Tourette's. There's a bunch of heavy people that I follow on there. It's hard to be a heavy person on YouTube anymore. You're not getting anywhere, okay? But you get somewhere on TikTok.
You think that people won't subscribe?
I think it's hard. I think
it's
it's harder than it's ever been, right?
Wow.
And it's harder to make it on YouTube than ever. But if you aren't exactly the demographic YouTube is targeting, and I don't even want to put words to it because it's going to make me sound like a bigot, and I don't want to sound like a bigot, right? But there's definitely a very specific age demographic, race demographic, color demographic, whatever it is, whatever YouTube's magic formula is. They will help you if you fit that magic formula. And if you don't, they're not going to help you.
Right.
And if you don't get help from YouTube these days, it's real hard to make it, because you're going to have to find the help from somewhere else. Because I don't think it's impossible to be self-made on YouTube anymore. I don't know if it's possible, because your videos won't go into the algorithm. Your videos won't go into recommended no matter what. There's no discoverability. If you don't have an advertising budget, if you don't have a way to connections to get other people to come look at your shit, the algorithm will never put you in recommended. I know this mostly because I have a podcast I've been making. It's a gaming podcast complaining about gaming news. And I'm not taking any money from it. I did it to design it for my friends Ellis and Jacob, because I wanted to help build their careers, because they're Twitch streamers now. And so I'm like, you guys take all the money, and I'll just show up once a week, and we'll just create a podcast, and I'll use my name to help you build. But what we found is, because that channel has so few subscribers, even if somebody clicks on one of our videos, chances are our other videos still will not show up in recommended.
Really?
It's so hard to get into the recommended algorithm now, because they're so afraid. You know, I don't know what the actual rules are, but that's what it seems like from my experimentation.
The only people I see who, like, because I see smaller YouTubers breaking into the game fairly frequently, but it seems like they're always commentating on bigger videos.
Right, and so you can use the keyword searches from other people, right? A lot of people have made a name for themselves by taking the bullshit lies you see on me on the internet and just putting them all in one video.
Right.
And there's one girl who I have no hard feelings for at all whatsoever. I watched her video, and honestly, I thought it was fair, but she based it off a lot of bullshit, like saying I was abusive to my ex-wife. I was never abusive to anybody. I'm not abusive to my ex-wife. What are you talking about? Right? But like my ex-wife, well, that's why she left me, because I was hitting her or some shit. I don't know, man. I obviously never did that, but I still harbor no ill will. But that's her most viewed video at this point, I think. You know, I haven't exactly checked, but it got like 150, 175,000 views, and I think her normal videos get way less than that. You know, so that is one way. But she already has to be in the recommendation algorithm for that video to get recommended, right? And God love her. Good luck with her career. I want her to have a good career. I want her to have good things. I have no hard. All the people that hate on me, I want you to have good lives, man. I've got no problem with it. You know.
Yeah.
Hate what you hate. You can't help what you love, and you can't help what you hate. I do think hate is counterproductive. And I think that you should use that energy to build your own life instead.
Right.
But who am I to tell somebody how to spend their time?
Yeah, it's weird times on YouTube. When I think about a lot of when I first got into YouTube, not when I first got in. When I first got in, I was doing BMX bike stuff. But then pretty soon after, I felt like I started to find my lane on YouTube. Unluckily, right before the demonetization wave initially hit. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make videos where I do all the shit that nobody else is gonna do. I'm gonna do a vlog where I do acid, boom, 3 million views. I'm gonna do a vlog where I have a threesome with my girlfriend's friend, boom, 10 million views. And I was like, like crushing it by just doing all this content that was fully monetized, but it was also just me doing stuff that like I felt like nobody had ever done on YouTube.
Right, of course.
And holy shit, the platform has gone in a different direction. I can still post that kind of stuff. It's just, you know, I'm not going to make any money from it, and they're going to do everything that they can to make it so that people aren't going to really see it. Every single time I interview a porn star and it hits like 1 million views and it has to crawl there because, you know, it'll do really good out the front until it gets demonetized after the first 100,000 views or whatever, and then it'll start crawling up. But like people actually want to see that content, so YouTube will make it really hard for people to find, but they'll still find their way to it.
What's really interesting, because obviously I know people at YouTube and I've talked to people at YouTube, right? Because I'm an OG creator, so I have friends and connections, right? And when you talk to them, it's impossible for me not to empathize with them because of the stuff they have had to fight. Like you saw the child pornography thing,
The recent one,
and like and then like ISIS and shit, and like, you know, Wall Street Journal posting about that. Like they're fighting some real demons, right? And I get it. And the tools that they are using to suppress us also suppress them. And it's maybe worth the sacrifice to keep ISIS and child pornography off the fucking website. I don't want those people on my website. So if I have to make a little less money or a lot less money, I get it. But at the same time, there has to be a better balance, right? Because you're chasing off creators, you're chasing off interesting content. YouTube is starting to look like TV. And that's not a good thing because the whole point of YouTube is it wasn't TV. I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 15 years. I don't plan to get cable, okay? And I don't want YouTube to turn into cable. You know why? And if that's what happens, I'm just going to keep watching stupid TikTok shit. Because you can have a conservative voice on TikTok.
You can.
Yeah, you can. I see conservative videos there all the time, and they get in the trending page, and they show up, and people like say all kinds of like shit that I don't agree with and offends me. But
I
it's
never
there.
would have thought of that. I have not actually really spent time on TikTok. I've only been on Triller, which is basically the same thing, but it's like the black version.
Right.
Where people make shitloads of like rap dance songs. I don't know if the functionality is any different.
So TikTok originally was Musically, and Musically is almost exclusively lip syncing.
Right.
And TikTok does still have lip syncing, but most of what I see on there is either a trending lip sync song or original content, right? And it's a lot of original content. And so I'm bored shitless with the lip syncing. I don't care, right? What I'm interested in is sometimes the cosplay, sometimes the interesting people. There's one guy watching there who, I forget the disease he has. He said it in a video. But he's like, got a big knot on his head, and he's in the constant pain because of it, and he's disabled because of the constant pain. But he's trying to live a good life, and he lives in a small southern town. And every time he eats lunch, he takes a video of his lunch. He's like, "This is my lunch. This is my lunch. This is my lunch. I'm eating French fries and salmon. Goodbye." And like, it just makes me feel so good to know this guy's getting a good lunch.
It sounds like Vine.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's like vertical Vine. That's what I call it.
See, I think that what my preconceived notions about Musically were kind of stopping me from maybe diving in on TikTok. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I got an email today from somebody from TikTok saying like, "Oh, we want to have a call discussing such and such. Maybe we could work together, whatever." So now is probably the time that I should get interested
pass
in
on
TikTok.
my number too. You know, let them know I'll take some money, man.
I don't know what the fuck
because I can
they
do
wanna do with
Francis
me.
on there. I've done some stupid Francis shit, like screaming at the audience or whatever.
Right.
There's some guy on here calling me fat. You know, like old school classic shit. You know?
Do you bust it out for like a quick Twitter video ever sometimes?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
But again, then I almost wonder if he works now that I've lost so much weight and I've got like the teeth, especially. The script that I have right now that I haven't filmed because I've been traveling so much is, and I need like a stand-in and I need like a cameraman to film it. So I need like my heavyset friend to come in and be the other person. But I want to film like a Francis versus Boogie fist fight over the teeth, in which I literally black out some of my teeth, like the teeth stuff, and so it looks like, you know, Francis has knocked out Boogie's new teeth, right? Like, that's why I want to draw and lead into the Storyfire stuff too. But again, it's so frustrating to do that for YouTube for $20, and I can upload it to Storyfire and make a couple hundred, you know. So I'd rather upload it to Storyfire. But I want to go back to my roots on YouTube.
I gotta check that platform out too.
Yeah, it's small right now and video is brand new, but it's interesting because he's designing it in a way that can make people rich because there's like a premium currency, right? But you can buy it, but you can also earn it by writing stories or filming videos and putting it on there. And then eventually they're going to go public because it's based off of Ethereum,
right? And
so they're eventually going to go public with that crypto. And when they go public with that crypto, they're going to pump it themselves with their own money, right? And so you're going to have, say, 10,000 blaze, right? And then it goes live, and then everybody pumps it, right? Because I'm going to buy some, you're going to buy some, we're all going to buy some. And when we all buy some that day, you bought it for $19 for $20,000, and now that's $20,000 is worth $200, $500, right?
Right.
So it's an interesting because the people who are early platforming it are getting an opportunity to like make money, and I think that's really cool.
That's dope. I'm actually really about to start uploading all my porn star interviews to Pornhub.
Yeah, I don't know why you aren't already.
Yeah, because I heard like pretty good rates being reported back from Johnny Sins, who obviously is like actual talent and everything, but like on his channel with all his videos, I believe that he's probably getting like X percentage from videos that he's in general, possibly. I'm not sure exactly how they arrange it, but I mean, and they were just saying that Pornhub's thinking about buying Tumblr.
Oh yeah,
That could be a game changer.
Yeah. Wait, what? What? The
Pornhub's thinking about buying Tumblr, like for real.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Tumblr is
because
on
there's so
sale.
much porn on Tumblr back in the day, right?
And they lost the entire cultural currency of Tumblr over the course of the last year or two, or however long since they got rid of the porn and everything. But when you think about it, Pornhub might be the unlikely freedom of speech defender that we need in the social media war.
I really think you're right. And it's interesting because I know obviously you know a lot more people in porn, but I've got a few fans who are porn stars, right? Some male, some female, and I've hung out with a couple of them, met with a couple of them. I know some sex workers as well and fans and stuff. And so I'll talk to them about their business because I'm fascinated by it. Right? I want to learn how you're making your money, what your business model is, if you could diversify, if there's anything I can do to help. So if a female or male actor, Pornhub original content person comes to me, I'm like, let's see what your CPM is. Let's see if you can diversify. Is merch an option? Is brand deals an option? What can we do here? And I'm surprised because every time I hear about the CPMs from Pornhub, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah,
it's
like
pretty
$2,
similar
right?
to YouTube.
Ish.
Do I? It depends.
$2, something like that?
I've heard like as much as $5 or $6 for a CPM for a monetized.
I've never seen that on
right?
YouTube.
Yeah, and well, my average is about not per reel, but monetized, whatever monetized for. I'll get like $5 on a gameplay video, and on a Francis video, I'll get 20 cents.
See, so, I average like 2,000-3,000 off like 1 million views, but we're also talking about like an hour-long interview.
Right, yeah, of course.
So I got like maybe 5 ads in there.
Yeah, well, off of 1 million at my best days, 1 million would come close to $10,000 on my best days,
God,
right?
Dear Lord.
But we're talking about like my original fat guy dramatic splash falling into the pool, right? And that's got like 20 million views, so maybe it's earned $20,000 across the last 10 years, you know? And that's good money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not faulting it. But, it's funny because I know the Fine Brothers, the guys who did React World and like had that big controversy.
Yeah.
But they went from television to YouTube, and they have publicly said that when we went from television to YouTube, we took a 90% cut because the money on television is ludicrously better, right? And YouTube is so under monetized. And that's the thing that I wish YouTube would understand, because they have the audience the same way television had the audience. And television determined what the rules were going to be, not the sponsors. Now, in the 60s and 70s, we watch Mad Men, it definitely swapped roles for a while, right? But for the biggest time, now especially, television says, hey, don't advertise in The Walking Dead or not, but we get the views, right? And you're going to advertise in The Walking Dead whether you object to Negan splitting heads open or not, right? Because that's the best spot to put your money. YouTube needs to say, look, our offensive content is the best place to put your money. They are so engaged. They are so interested. Adam is interviewing porn stars all the time. His audience is big. He delivers 5 videos, and the engagement is huge. You want this type of content. YouTube should be MTV, not ABC.
They should have embraced who they were. I totally agree. They could have been like, Vice was never making the pitch of like, look how family-friendly our content was. They were saying our content is the coolest, rawest shit, and you need to like get on board with this if you want to be able to fuck with this audience. And YouTube could have made the same play. I'm sure there's all kinds of financial incentives that made them make the decision that they did make.
Well, like I said, I live right next to Walmart home office, and when that first apocalypse happened, I won't say who at Walmart home office told me this, but he said, look, we don't give a shit about the moral stuff. We give a shit about coming back in 6 to 8 months and getting a lower bid when we do. We want to pay less for the same advertisement. So we're just going to pull for 6 months because we can afford to do it with Walmart, and then we'll come back. But we're just playing the pity card right now. We don't actually care. And I'm like, obviously. Like that's what everybody's doing. Nobody actually gives a shit. Because the same people, when the Christchurch shooter was blowing people up in New Zealand and Fox News was covering it, they advertised the Nissan cars then. They advertised at Walmart right there.
Yeah.
Come buy your fucking hemorrhoid pads at Walmart right now. And now back to this guy murdering people.
Oh, God. What a weird world we live in. At least Susan's helping Juice WRLD get his subscribers up.
I saw that clip, man. I was like, what is happening, man?
The funny part is that YouTube or her team like hit up Juice WRLD's team, like, can you please get that clip deleted? Like, they knew that that was the incendiary moment that was going to piss people off.
Of course.
And we did remove it, but it also made me think, well, oh, I'm going to remove this. I'm also going to send it to Keemstar.
Right, exactly, right. I got nothing but love for Susan, and at the end of the day, thank God for the opportunity she's provided. And I get that she's running a very difficult ship to run. I understand all of that. It's just some of the decisions that they have made have personally hurt my business and personally hurt my life, and it sucks. And it's hard not to take it personal, even though it's not personal. She's just trying to do the right thing, and she knows she's trying to do the right thing.
The one thing I consider so indefensible is just the fact that I make my videos live and then they get demonetized 5 seconds later.
Yeah,
it's like,
so stupid.
How deranged could you possibly be? I feel like I've been a hostage of some sick, deranged caretaker for a few years now, that this has been a possibility.
As someone who's spent a lifetime in abusive relationships, this is the most abusive relationship I've ever been in. I'd rather have my mom beat the shit out of me every day than deal with YouTube.
If you're going to cage and torture somebody, what is the main goal? The main goal is to make it so that they never know what the outcome is going to be of their behavior. So it shell shocks them. It forces them to not want to do anything. You want to make them so paranoid about existing that they won't do anything. That's kind of the thing they've effectively done in a way.
And it's heartbreaking. Like, because here's the thing. I am privileged in one way. Since I'm OG, I will never, my career, everybody's like, oh, his career is going to die. Dead channel. It's never going to die, buddy. I'm always going to be somewhat relevant. I can't imagine, this clip will not age well 2 years from now, right? But I think 2 years from now, I'll still be pushing through a couple million views. And I think those couple million views are still going to pay my fucking rent, okay? Yeah. So I'm going to be fine. Right? I don't worry about me. What I worry about is small creators who are struggling, who are getting 10,000 views per video, or people who just quit their day jobs because they hit 150, 250,000 subs and they think, now I have a real shot. And then their views go down 30%, 70% for no good reason because of an algorithmic shift. Or their videos that they have been told work get demonetized. And yeah, if I'm being fair, I am worried about me too. I definitely would like to continue to live the lifestyle where I currently do, where I get to travel and do cool shit. Yeah. But those people are determines whether or not they can have to give up on their dream overall, right? And it's heartbreaking because I know some really talented creators who've been grinding forever and never made it. I know some that just made it and had the rug pulled out from under them in the last couple of years. Probably one of my favorites is a channel called Zombie Go Boom, and they film right there in Northwest Arkansas with me, and they take zombie heads made of plastic and shit, and then they use weapons on those zombie heads. Sometimes they hit them with a crossbow, sometimes they hit them with an axe, sometimes a chainsaw, whatever. I smashed one in the back of the head with an Xbox to see if I could crack the skull open, right? That's Francis, obviously, you know. And it was a great channel, and they were making big money and they're getting big views. And then the first adpocalypse happened, and they've never got remonetized. Literally, they can't earn nothing, and so they're living off of brand deals. But because the videos are suppressed now, and because they lost a big core of their audience, because YouTube doesn't like to share demonetized videos as much, or videos that it thinks has, because they use red blood. Now they're starting to use green blood. They finally learned about that. But if you don't know that, the YouTube algorithm, if you Mortal Kombat 11, it will demonetize a Mortal Kombat 11 video when there's red blood. But if you have two characters, the one with blue and one with green blood, or both with green blood, it doesn't demonetize.
This is a thing.
That's an actual thing.
Oh my god.
That's something that's been reported from the
Mortal Kombat. I
just
bought Mortal Kombat 11 and I've been fucking around with it, and I was actually excited to make videos about it. So it's going to be a fun little test to run.
Color change it. Literally color change it so the red changes like something to turn into something else, and it literally probably will not get demonetized. Oh my god. Because that's what they've trained the bot to look for, is too much red. Right. One of my other favorite things is somebody wore a tan colored suit. They were wearing tan clothes, and they thought they were naked. Right. So it got demonetized.
Oh my god.
This is wearing a tan shirt.
And who we really need to feel bad for is the sex workers and just women on YouTube in general, because they're more often targeted. And and you see it on Instagram all the time, where all the porn stars get their Instagrams deleted constantly. But I mean, it's particularly insane when it comes to just women on YouTube. Anything that they do getting demonetized. It's like funny
crazy. When you tweeted out that I was coming here, they were like, Boogie's neither a porn star or a rapper, and I'm kind of both, because I worked in the adult industry for almost a decade. Most of what I did in the last few years was outsourced. Was running a business and letting other people do it while I played EverQuest. But in the beginning, there I was actually involved in that on set sometimes. And then I have a few rap songs, and I'm not good at it, but they're comedy rap songs. They're funny.
Right.
But I've always had a soft spot for sex workers my whole life. My mom prostituted herself out for drugs, for God's sakes.
Wow.
I mean, how do I not try to learn to love somebody who does that? And then I've had sex workers who've been very kind to me. I used to go to the strip clubs all the time, and then, you know, I would become friends with the strippers, and there's sometimes friends with benefits with these strippers. And
I'm going to take my kid, have him hang out with hookers all the time. I don't give a shit. They're going to help them out.
Yeah, I've got nothing in the world but like love for sex workers. And like, I never understood the concept of quote slut shaming, quote, because I always tell like when men do it, they're like mad at cosplay girls or e-girls. I'm like, dude, at least you get to look. Right? Like, what if that girl didn't even let you look? Like, at least you have some outlet, you fucking incel. Like, you.
Well, that's a positive outlook, yeah.
And God forbid, an actual slut, a girl who's actually loose, that is in your high school, is in your school, you should be really nice to her, because there's a slight chance she's going to fuck your ugly, smelly ass, okay?
Yeah.
So that's the person. I'm not saying porn stars are loose or anything, far from it. Some of the girls I know who do porn are really only ever do it for work. I've known girls who are just like, that's my job, so I don't do it in my personal life. I've known girls like that.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily saying porn stars are loose, but I'm saying when it comes to an actual slut who likes to have sex and likes to have sex with several men, you should be real nice to that person.
Yeah. I would always hate that. I remember that there was these two hot-ass girls in high school, and they went down to the BMX jumps one night, and I wasn't there, sadly, and sucked up like 5-6 dudes, like different BMX dudes.
Hell
and
yeah.
when I found out, I was so bummed. I felt like they just canceled Christmas, because I just found out that a bunch of my homies all got sucked up by these two hot ass girls. And then, you know, everybody in school started talking shit about them. And I doubt that they engaged in that behavior anytime soon after that.
Right.
And I just was like, what a terrible waste of a resource that you had
Exactly,
there.
right? No
Yeah.
shit. Well, your life is pretty good now, so I think you're probably okay. You
worked out in
missed
the
the
long
one
run.
blowjob, but I think you're probably okay
In
now.
the woods. And I was mad that I didn't get to get hit in the woods with my homies.
I will tell you right now, after getting divorced, I immediately got on every website I could to find as many girls as I could, right? And I was just nuts for it. And so I dated a few girls. And then a few girls got real bad. I got blackmailed once. Somebody tried to blackmail me. Another girl made a hit piece video of me lying and shit. And it was really heartbreaking. And
Wow.
my mistake was I was dating girls under the age of 30, which I don't think I should be doing much of at my age anyway, right? And so at one point, I just decided I was done. And it's been like 8 months since I've like even tried to have sex with a girl. And I mean, I've had a few girls who were like old friends and like, hey, let's hook up. Okay, I've done that a couple of times, but I'm not pursuing anything new, and I'm not even trying because I just don't want to have my heart broke. I'm not looking for anything emotional. And what I was looking for then was just like somebody to take it like Ruth's Chris and then out to a museum and out to a show and then come back home, right? I wasn't looking for a relationship. I was looking for fuck buddies, right?
Ruth's Chris, you know that's like a $100 meal, girls.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Tune in.
Well, that's all that's nice in Northwest Arkansas, right?
Oh, that's the nicest restaurant in town?
That's the nicest restaurant. I mean, there's some 5-star places, but it's the most expensive.
Ruth's
place,
Chris is
by the way,
nice, but we were just having that conversation the other day about how in a lot of towns in America, the Cheesecake Factory is the nicest restaurant in town.
I would kill myself.
Really? You can handle it?
No. Because, I mean, like, we're surprisingly have really good sushi in Northwest Arkansas. And, of course, we have all the southern comforts, like the barbecue and stuff.
Right.
But we have a couple of places like New York style and LA style and, like, some 4.5, 5 stars like Bordino's is pretty good. But the problem is, since nobody can afford LA prices out there, you're eating LA style food, but for $25, $30, right? Like an expensive meal in Northwest Arkansas is Ruth's Chris because it is $100, but you get a better meal at one of these 5-star local eateries and they feel bad for charging you $40 because. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some really expensive places in Bentonville, but when it comes to Fayetteville, which is the college town, Bardino's, I walked in and I laughed at the prices because I'm used to LA prices. And I'm like, you want $35 for what? Are you kidding? That's a 16-ounce Kobe. What is happening?
People are always shocked when I'm in like other places that are outside of LA, outside of big cities, and I am just happy as hell to pay for dinner. I'm like, oh my God, look at that. Like, and also in my brain, I'm trained, like if say I'm looking at the salad section of the menu, if that salad's not like $15 in LA, I'm assuming it's trash.
Right. Exactly,
in my head, it's like if it reaches a certain level of money, then they couldn't possibly be charging $20 for a shit salad.
Right.
So if it's $20, I'm feeling like, okay, it's probably a really good salad.
I went to a vegetarian place with my friend Dan Bowl the other night. called the Veggie Grill. You ever been there? Right off.
Oh,
it's
here,
real close to you, right?
I've seen it over your time a couple times.
I was like, holy fuck, this is actually really good. They had like a faux pork, pulled pork sandwich, and it was like a cafeteria pulled pork sandwich. Like you really didn't taste like meat, but it tasted good enough to where I'd eat that 3 or 4 days a week and spare a life.
You're a fan of the vegan food?
No, not really, and that's what's so surprising because he's vegan, and I'm like, obviously he's buying, so I'm gonna let him buy whatever he wants, right? And so he's like, let's go to this vegan place. I'm vegan. All right, I'll try it. I don't have a problem with eating vegan food. You know, I just don't choose it for myself.
Same.
You see, here's the thing. I went to 4-H camp when I was a kid, and we were there for 6 weeks. And 4-H is the Future Farmers of America, right?
Right.
And so the first week of 4-H camp, they introduced us to a cow, and they're like, hey, here's a cow. Meet the cow. And I'm like, neat. And like, you're all going to clean the cow and meet the cow, and you're going to learn its tricks and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And so one time during the camp, we had to go there and like clean the shit and like pet the cow or whatever. And then on the 5th week, they're like, all right, everybody say goodbye to the cow. Where's she going? Slaughter. We're going to eat her. And so they wanted to show you that this living thing becomes your meat.
Right.
And we want you to respect the meat because we're farmers and you're going to be a farmer and we want you to respect the meat.
Yeah.
And that kind of changed things a little bit because it didn't make me not want to eat meat, but it made me appreciate the sacrifice. Because that was a smart animal, right? And they proved to us that they're killing him humanely, and that things are they are scared going towards the slaughterhouse, but then it's over. And since I'm a nihilist, at the end of the day, I know it's truly over. It's not like cow hell.
Right.
So once they're gone, they're gone. It's okay. And as long as they don't suffer that much while they're here, I don't have that much of a problem with it.
No, yeah.
So
you honor your hamburger, but don't not have the hamburger. That's all I say.
And from time to time, I will choose a vegetarian or fruit option for lunch or breakfast because it's okay.
Best vegan food that I ever had. I'm gonna be honest. Next time you come to town, I'll take you to Travis Barker's restaurant down the street. That shit is good. It's pretty solid.
I went to Katsuya or something like that, the sushi place right near my hotel, and oh my god, it was so good.
Really?
And here's the other thing. Fuck fish, because they are not smart animals. I don't give a shit if a fish suffers. One of the very first merit badges I got in Boy Scouts was the fishing merit badge because no one else wanted to clean the fish. And I was like, these things are barely alive, man.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
And that's some good shit. Salmon, man.
Yeah,
that's a clean protein dish.
It's good. So I love salmon. It's one of my favorite meals, man.
I'm a salmon fanatic.
I'm like, hey, that's what I want for dinner now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get salmon.
There you go. Fuck the vegan food. Hey, I got another interview after this, so unfortunately I have to wrap this up a little bit early. But I really appreciate you coming through, and you're fucking crazy easy to talk to. We just crushed like 2 hours of this thing.
Did we really?
I believe.
That means that I've been talking for like 6 hours today because I just did a podcast this morning. That's great.
Oh, that's always interesting when you sort of get like the when you get to go second in the gangbang. When like H3 was
You like it
first.
when it was sloppy? You like it sloppy? Well, yours is out in the world first, so you really got first if you think about it, right? Because yours isn't out yet. It's going to be a little while. So.
This is for the hardcore, for the diehards.
So for all the people out there listening, hey, listen, go download Storyfire. Check out g4bygolpa.com, and if you need to get your teeth fixed, they're giving away stuff. YouTube.com/Boogie2988, Twitch.tv/Boogie2988, and I love you very much. And if you take nothing else from anything I've said in this podcast, if something I've said in this podcast has upset you, here's what I want to tell you, okay? I mean it all very lovingly. I have nothing but good intentions. The only thing I want in this world is I want you and me and everyone else to get along. I want us to learn to love each other. I don't care if you're black or white, short or tall, skinny, fat, gay or straight. I don't care. A conservative or Republican, I think we need to learn to love each other again, and we need to empathize together again. And that's my goal, and that's my message, and that's the only thing I give a shit about. Like, I don't give a fuck about the economy. I don't care about anything other than you and I learning to live in harmony and learning to love each other. That's my entire goal of everything I do. So
there you go. Boogie2988, spitting real shit.
I love you guys.
No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. Check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. Very, very big thanks to Boogie for coming through. Maybe we can do this again.
Thank you for having me, by the way.
Maybe we'll
Thank
have
you so
a
much,
nice roster of new topics for next time. I feel like at certain points during this, and I embrace it, it turned into a YouTuber complaint session. But they need to know about that.
Right. I try. Here's the thing, because the reason I want to talk about it is to say that you might want to check out TikTok. It's pretty cool. And you might want to check out Storyfire because it's pretty cool. There are alternatives out there. YouTube is not the only place. And when you start getting bored of YouTube because it's all Jimmy Fallon all the time, you better find an alternative.
Ain't that real? That Trevor Noah's, how many subscribers has he got? Shit.
Fucking Colbert.
Oh, God. All right. Well, shout out to Susan Wojcicki or whatever the fuck
I
her
love
name
you,
is.
Susan. I wish you'd invited me to the Creator Summit again. I really had fun last year. Bye.
Oh, shit. It's like that. All right. Well, hey, guys, appreciate you. Shout out to everybody who watched this. Hey. There you go.
That was great, man.